As the year winds to a close, it's time to celebrate what has been in the world of Porsche Esports Canada. Today, it's an invitational round of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada as we get set to close out the year. Welcome along to RaceSpotTV in a special presentation. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined alongside in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by the voice of the 2020 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, Peter Mackay. And Peter, you are maybe our resident Porsche fan here at RaceSpotTV, so maybe it's only fitting that we get set for a 3-hour special alongside yourself.
Oh, this is pure indulgence for me, Arjuna. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. We've got 8 fantastic drivers to go racing in 3 very different kinds of Porsche on 3 very different circuits today. I, for one, cannot wait.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the format and then let's get into Super Pole qualifying because that's always exciting. 3 exciting Porsches and 3 different Porsches. I think that's where we are starting to get a little bit excited. Mission R at Bathurst, the newest of the Porsches available here on iRacing, as electric power has now joined the iRacing service. As mentioned, Super Pole qualifying underway, so one by one they roll out on the mountain and then we'll go for a 20-minute race. That sets the grid for race number 2, which is a jaunt over to somewhere closer to where Peter is with the 992 Cup car. We'll set the grid, of course, with that race 1 result and then go for another 20 minutes. But then the endurance race, where 2 pit stops are expected in a 60-minute dash in Brazil in what is, I think, my favorite GT3 car, Peter, but also one that I'm quite sad to see disappear because that new 992 generation GT3 car looks spectacular.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? But that 911 GT3R, it's just won everything there is to win in global endurance racing, and a lot of the time in a Canadian team's hands as well.
Yes.
Fast Motorsports have had immense success with that car.
Yeah, and the plaid not necessarily going to be on display. We've got some interesting IROC style liveries which will make their feature over the course of the evening/afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Afternoon for me, evening for Peter over the pond, and well, let's head all the way around the world and let's head to Mount Panorama. So much racing history here, and well, the electric whine of this Mission R rumbles around. We're watching as Antoine Leger is on his out lap, but it's Antoine Lacharitte who is powering down this long back straightaway into that chase complex at the very end of the lap. And Peter, in an electric car here, I'm very curious how it's going to race.
Well, this is so cool because this Mission R concept car has led on to a car which we will see on the racetrack very, very soon. The Porsche GT4e Performance is the car that's been born out of this concept machine. But in qualifying mode, it has a party mode, 1,000 horsepower, pushing 1,500 kilograms. So it's about the same weight as a V8 supercar you see here at Bathurst, but with a heck of a lot more power. And that first lap time in, a 1:58.435. That's shifting.
So still Andrew Caron that sits at the top. Again, one by one they will go. So now it's Etienne Leger that will power his way through the tricky final corner. And in the Apex V2R bright green machine, get underway. Instant torque, I think, something that we talk about with electric cars. And at Bathurst, even though there is plenty of undulation, I don't think it's going to be so much of an issue for the drivers, Peter. I still think the main issue is going to be getting it turned because while it does turn, it doesn't necessarily turn as well as a GT3 machine.
Yeah, so just that little bit of extra weight, of course, with the battery pack. Although these cars as well, they're 4-wheel drive, unlike the 992 Cup car we'll see later, and indeed the GT3R that you mentioned. There's a motor on each wheel, so that gives it permanent 4-wheel drive and immense performance. You can see really just how quick Etienne Leger's number 8 car here just boosts all the way up towards the cutting. And actually there's a lot of parts of this Bathurst circuit where you need 2 things. You need horsepower and you need traction. This car's got both of it. Oh, I love this format. I love it. 1 lap. If you mess it up, you're at the back of the grid. But if you pull it off, you're a hero.
I do as well love that we're not just embracing on the outside what a race car is going to look like, but inside as well. Not just the electronics, but the display and all these different technologies. It's a glimpse to the future of what it may look like. Of course, the evolution with GT3 cars was the rear view camera, which is mounted often in the center of the car, on the dash itself, on the top of the dash. Now it's actually in the car, directly in the display of what the driver would typically see. So I do like as well that we've got that evolution, and I've seen some videos of what that road-going counterpart is going to be like, Peter. It looks like a beast.
Oh yeah, we know it's been confirmed that the next 718 Cayman and 718 Boxster road cars will be electrified. And I actually drove in. I haven't driven the Taycan yet, the only full electric Porsche on the range at this moment in time. But I did drive the electrified. Oh, mistake for Etienne Leger. Oh, and that'll put him down the order. Let's see what the time's going to be. It's a 2 flat. That puts him slowest so far out of the 3 lap times we've seen. But yeah, these electrified Porsche. I tried the Cayenne Turbo hybrid recently, and 700 combined horsepower, and it was a machine, I can tell you.
So next up, it's Giovanni Romano in the huge-ass 337 that begins his lap into the tricky hell corner. Aptly named, because if you get it wrong, well, you feel like hell until you roll around the entirety of Bathurst and do it all again. Long run down this undulating straight that leads you into the very, very tricky turn number 2, where I think it is one of the primary passing opportunities. Going to be interesting which lines you can run and how drivers will squeeze each other as they begin the climb, up the mountain. But Giovanni Romano, a little bit tentative so far, but I think, like you said, crucially, you're just, with Super Bowl qualifying, trying to put something onto the board.
Yeah, I think that could be a good strategy. If you don't think you've got the pace for pole, just make sure that you get that lap in nice and safely. Yeah, you can see Giovanni, they're not running it all the way out to the walls. He's definitely leaving a margin here, and survival is pretty important at Bathurst. Up over towards Skyline here as well, a proper helter-skelter of a lap. And this is a part where one of the most iconic moments in Porsche history over the last decade was Matt Campbell at this very corner here, where he overtook Jake Dennis in the Aston Martin to win the Bathurst 12-hour in a Porsche GT3R as well. So although the circuit's best known for the Supercar Championship and the Bathurst 1000, it does have a very, very high-profile 12-hour race as well.
And of course, next year, the 12-hour race will become something more akin to what we've been accustomed to it being in recent years. Of course, the last handful of years in COVID-19 have seen that race shift around the calendar, and with logistics being a problem, not all the international teams have been able to direct their attention to that race, but at least for 2023 it looks as though it's going to be an exciting one, and we'll see exactly how fun it's going to be, especially with less nighttime running, which I'm a little bit sad about. Romano's benchmark is a 1:58.4. He's already plus 2 minutes, but again, he'll put something forward, and this car is a tricky beast to tame, and survives the lap at Mount Panorama. Now, not sure exactly who is up next, because we've got a handful of cars out on track, but so far a bit of a spread in the times. Andrew Cron's 1:58.435 still looking like it's untouchable.
Yeah, at the moment he sits on top of the timesheets by 0.6 of a second from Antoine Lacherit. Then it's another second back to Etienne Leger, with another 7/10 back to Giovanni Romano. But we've got a couple of really quick drivers coming up now. Ian Gagnon-Renault and Guillaume Levesque about to put in their fast times as well, as we ride on board with Guillaume Levesque. Up the hill he goes. I was going to say up the gearbox. There is no gearbox. It's single speed. It's just like if you've ever driven a golf cart before. It's exactly the same. Just put your foot down and, well, relax. You've got a bit of relaxation, and the relaxation stops right here.
Yeah, there's not much now relaxing for about 90-odd seconds until you breathe at the end of the chase, and you can do it all over again. Up through the cutting, this is a little bit more aggressive than what we saw from Romano, willing to get to the edges of the track, and that's that crucial bump where if you are going to have issues with your throttle application, it's likely to be at this point. So tentative, though, Levesque having to be, and, well, he's being a little bit more risky now as he starts towards the descent down the hill. Very tidy on that first part of the mountain.
Yeah, looking very good, very determined here, Guillaume Levesque, and really pushing that number 3 car down the hill at the moment as he heads down towards the dipper. Oof. And yeah, the car looking really loose. It's a relatively heavy machine, probably about 100, 200 kilograms, about 100 kilograms heavier than a GT4 and about 250 kilograms heavier than a GT3 machine, so it is a little bit more, and of course that four-wheel drive does make it handle a bit differently. I mean, the GT4 e-Performance, which this car it was basically the father of, actually has 52% of the power to the front, so it does feel a little bit more front biased than what the drivers will be used to.
It's a car that's also only been available in iRacing for about 3 months or so, and not a car that I think most will have too much experience in. That definitely going to be a factor to consider. Levesque then in the number 3, gonna get his way to the top, and not by a small margin, by 0.6 of a second.
Wow, what a lap time there from Guillaume Levesque. Superb stuff. 0.6 of a second to the good ahead of Andrew Carr, and that puts him on provisional pole position.
Well,
who do we have here?
I will just say we were meant to have Ian Gagnon Renault, the next car in our qualifying queue, but unfortunately I think Ian has had an issue and may not be rolling in Super Bowl qualifying. So instead we look at Marc-Andre Seguin, who's down towards the elbow and ready to work his way towards the chase.
Well, let's see what Mark can do in the number 6 car, running the black and green.
Oh, he's got some company.
He's got some. He does have some company there. That's very social. Yeah, I like that.
And he looks like he's getting bumped around in a motion rig, doesn't he?
Yes, I was about to say, that's either he's had an adventurous choice of meal for his dinner, but no, I think it's the motion rig and just adding to that immersion. And it must be difficult to get out of the habit of reaching for the gear shift paddle, but there's nothing to reach for there, of course, as well with this car. Let's see what the lap time is going to be.
Not going to be pole. It's a 59.4, so he will slide to the outside of the second row, and we now just have one more driver to punch in a lap time. It's Matt Adams, who is getting ready to wind up for his lap, and well, I do like the IROC liveries that we've got. This one, a nice little shade of orange.
Yeah, very, very cool indeed is that one as well. I tell you what, one thing I do enjoy, Arjuna, is playing about on the Porsche configurator.
Oh yes, me too.
And the paint. Do you see? I feel so glad and comfortable now because I feel like I was the only person who enjoyed that. But no, I'm glad you do too. Have you tried the new paint to sample feature?
Yes, I have. Unfortunately,
that's very cool.
Yes, and now my wish list has gotten a little bit more expensive.
For me, it would be the I think the Cayman GT4 in Highland Green.
See,
would be mine.
I change my mind on the paint basically every other day at this point.
Me too.
I do tend to agree that I would prefer a Cayman at this point over the 911, although there is a certain appeal to me of trying to find an older 911 and just enjoying driving that for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, wouldn't we all love that? Exactly. I tell you what, in my dream 5-car Porsche garage would be one of the, funnily enough, one of the IROC cars, which you could, with not too much difficulty, drive on the street at the time. Yeah, 1973 IROC Carrera RSR, yes, please. Oh, big slide there for Matt Adams. And he looks completely unflustered.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing about these top-level sim racers, unlike us, Peter, is that we get flustered quite easily, and they do not. It's almost like sometimes when they come across the line and win, there's a distinct lack of emotion, and you're just like, you've won the race, right? The job's done.
I think it must just be that level of focus that they're able to find that us mere mortals cannot, and it's almost like someone has to wake them out of it, go, you've won. Oh, have I? Oh, excellent. Fantastic. Well, let's see what Matt Adams is going to do. 157.845 is the benchmark. Can he nick the pole position from Guillaume Levesque? This is going to be close.
It's a big slide out of the final corner, and by 0.6 of a second, the 2021 GT4 champion of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge will grab the top step in Super Bowl qualifying. We do love a good Super Bowl qualifying session, and it feels apt here at Bathurst, but I think we're almost ready to go racing now.
Oh, fantastic. What a qualifying session and what a lap. Matt Adams saving the best for last.
He did indeed. So Ian Gagnon Renault, the only driver who was unable to get a lap time onto the board before the session came to a close. Let's run you down through the starting grid. Not many cars to talk about but it is bound to be an exciting 20 minutes. It's Matt Adams and Guillaume Levesque on the front row, with Andrew Caron and Antoine Lacherit behind them. Then Marc-André Seguin and Etienne Leger in the Apex V2R green machines on row number 3. Giovanni Romano and then Ian Gagnon Renault will bring up the rest of the field. 7 cars split by 3.5 seconds, illustrating just how difficult I think this car truly is to master. And maybe, therefore, it's not surprising that, Peter, we're not going to mess around with a standing start here. We're going to let these guys have a bit of a rolling canter.
I think that's a good idea, yeah. And just the sheer dollop of torque that these cars can basically apply at the flick of a light switch. You know, that's the great thing with electric power, is you don't have to wait for a turbo to spin up or for the engine to have its kind of combustion. You just hit the loud pedal or the quiet pedal, as the case is with electric, and whoosh, off it goes. Especially with a 4-wheel drive as well, really, really helpful. But one advantage they do have, normally this type of car, or the GT4 e-Performance as it will be known, you don't have an engine in the middle of the car where it would normally be on a kind of Cayman-sized car. So the Porsche aerodynamicists have had a lot of fun putting some huge diffusers on the back of these cars as well, which gives it fantastic downforce. In fact, the GT4 e-Performance has got similar downforce levels to the RSR. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Now, the one thing I am very sad about is that I will never get the opportunity to have... Well, maybe I will still if I can make my way out to Le Mans for 2023, but at this point in time, unlikely to hear the rumble of the RSR engine, at least in the real world. The great thing about sim racing is we can take a look at the drivers, and we'll get to listen into some of the drivers as well, because they're all talking to one another, Peter, as they get ready to go racing for the 20 minutes.
Yeah, they've missed the call for driver start your engines here. It's driver switch on your power plant. I like it how we've got Ian Gagnon Renault. He's got a fan to cool him down, and Matt Adams has got a woolly hat on.
Yes.
The differing climates of Canada.
Well, or just the different preferences of the drivers, which I think is also always significant. We were talking about this during the VCO Pro Sim Infinity, which just wrapped up, but some drivers like to race in complete pitch black darkness. I'm glad none of these drivers like to do that, because I don't understand that. I don't know about you.
I find it actually quite hard on my eyes. I prefer to have a well lit room, actually, but maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. Good
point. And maybe those are one of the things that we got to learn from the likes of some of the fastest drivers. We've got 8 of them ready to go, though. Some of the top drivers in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada over the last 3 years to battle for a 2022 Invitational. We're racing for 20 minutes at the mountain. Into turn number 1 they go, with Guillaume Levesque trying to hold off Matt Adams, as around the outside they battle side by side. Of course, a long run down into the turn number 2 braking zone. Levesque has been able to work his way forward and grab the lead, almost 3 wide in the background.
Oh, and I would think these cars are going to give off a great draft as well here, and you've got 2 fantastic drafting opportunities. Levesque, he made sure he hung on hard to that inside line. He holds the advantage here, as Andrew Caron going to try and make a look here in the number 7. In fact, that's Anton Lacherit, excuse me, in the yellow and black Bumblebee machine. He's there in 3rd. So great start from Lacherit. Matt Adams, he's dropped back to 2nd as well. So a real shuffle at the start here as they head up to the mountain for the first time.
Now you just got to get into line and settle into a bit of a rhythm. You're not going to make a pass on the mountain, at least not cleanly. So you wait till the elbow, you hope for a mistake, and you get the best run out of the corner to try and look in towards the kink and then in towards the chase. A bit of contact there, I think, down through the first part of Skyline for Lacherit in that Bumblebee-coloured car. He's hunting down the orange of Matt Adams and then the blue of Guillaume Levesque, as down through the elbow for the very first time. Some separation building with 4 cars running at the front.
So here they go, down Conrod straight for the first time, then down towards the chase. Absolutely flat out to maximum velocity here as well. Drivers just kind of holding station as well, but you can see Matt Adams now starting to get the benefit of the draft as they come through the chase. Can he set up a move on the brakes? No, not quite, as the pull back into line. So this has been an excellent first lap from Guillaume Levesque, not able to... he was able to pinch the lead into turn 1, and he's held it through lap 1. And we've kind of got a kind of breakaway group forming at the front, and then we've got this second group led by Ian Gagnon-Renault, who started from the back. He's made his way through to 5th already.
And he was one of your names to watch, so we'll see the charge through the field, already being able to work his way forward to 5th, and now has to bridge a 2.5 odd second gap to the front 4 that are starting to stretch their legs, albeit slightly. And we said we're going to look at the drivers. We can look at all 3 of the drivers. You've got Guillaume Levesque on the right-hand side, Matt Adams in the middle, and then Antoine Lacherit trying to hunt them down on the left-hand side. And like you were saying, Peter, they're about as calm as you can get, despite being at potentially one of the toughest challenges in global motorsports.
Yeah, it is. There is just no room for error at Bathurst. You get a great view here coming through on this onboard camera with, big oversteer there for Antoine Lacherit as well. Just shows you these cars have got so much power that they really are a handful, and there is a bit of weight to move around compared to other cars of their size. Really amazing there. Of course, they're not running the same power that they did in qualifying. They've got to turn it up to maximum mode in qualifying, 1,000 horsepower down to 600 for the race.
What would you call your qualifying mode? Party mode? I mean, I don't think that's the most creative term.
I want my mummy mode, I think.
I think, yeah, we've got more terms like that I think are more fitting for what that truly represents. Because the power that they have in race mode is already sufficient. We don't really need too much more. Top 2 now starting to stretch their legs. 8/10s back to Lacherit, who's being closed on in by Andrew Caron. And now a look. Matt Adams looks to the inside, switches back to the outside, in through the chase. Levesque not fighting too hard because he saw Adams running off the road, who's now got to watch as Lacherit fires it on past.
Oh, wow, it almost looked a little bit too good to be true, though. Matt Adams, if he just pulled that off, that would have been the move of the day already. I mean, really impressive for the way he set it up. Just couldn't get that car slowed down, and that's given Guillaume Levesque a very critical advantage. 1.5 seconds back to Antoine Lacherit with 15 minutes to go, and Adams is going to have to do it all again. Andrew Caron right there as well, and I think we might see Ian Gagnon-Renault turn up on the scene as well in the not too distant future.
He'll be hoping that Adams, Lacherit and Caron can all start squabbling amongst themselves, because the more they fight, they'll drag Gagnon-Renault into it. You can see he's already separated himself from Leger, Seguin and Romano at the back of the field. We've got about 4 distinct groups forming, 2 with just 1 driver in each of them, Levesque and Gagnon-Renault, and then 3 car fights at either side of them. I think in 20 minutes, we're not going to talk about mental fatigue. However, in a 1-hour race at Interlagos, the track's not difficult, Peter. However, it is a race that's going to be quite demanding, because draft will be such an important factor in what will likely be a fuel save race.
Yeah, and the thing at Interlagos as well is so you can get very high track temperatures, which makes the surface really greasy, so it's easy to lose grip on that surface as well. So definitely a factor there as well. Great shot there with Lacherit, Adams and Caron just coming down through the dipper. Really gives her an impression of just how much of a helter-skelter this track is as well. This is Christmas come early for Guillaume Levesque. 1.7 seconds now is the gap back to Lacherit as well, because if Lacherit, Adams and Caron, they start battling away, well, it's going to slow the pace down, and that's going to allow Levesque to... Oh, contact! That's huge! Oh, he's going for the Bathurst jump a bit early. Oh!
Well,
my word.
Well, Matt Adams tried to shut the move down of Andrew Caron. In doing so, he almost ran into Guillaume Levesque. Gagnon-Renault says, thank you very much. I'll take that 3rd position away from you all.
Well, Gagnon-Renault, he was right on the pace of the leader last time by. Look at his face. He's like, oh, maybe it's Happy Christmas to me as well. He's
What's going on?
What just happened? Oh, my word. Now, that would have been... Well, for Guillaume Levesque, that would have been the most bizarre way to be taken out of a motor race. Wowee. The Apex V2R, they're having a bit of a kind of family feud here within the green and black machines.
Yeah, and then you got Giovanni Romano, who is not part of the Apex V2R clan. He's in the huge ass clan, but he's watching on and seeing if the teammates will stumble over each other. But no, they're going to single file themselves out. You made the point that Gagnon-Renault was on the pace of the leaders. Don't count him out from catching up to Lasharit with still probably about 5 or 6 laps to go. Lap times here basically almost equivalent, we should say, to a GT3 car. We're only about a second or two off what a Porsche 911 GT3R would do.
Yeah, and it gives you an impression of the difference between the qualifying mode that these cars have and the race mode. There's 6 seconds of lap time difference between what they did in qualifying. In fact, more than that, 7 seconds of difference between for the fastest cars between qualifying and the race. So that's what 400 horsepower extra does for you as well. And I mean, we were talking about this pre-broadcast, weren't we, Arjuna, about how the Bathurst Top 10 Shootout is one of the most incredible spectacles of the motor racing year in any category. And that's drivers just going to the absolute maximum. And I would imagine the top cars will be running just that little bit more power than usual there, but not 400 horsepower extra. It does give us a little glimpse into the future of how electrification needn't be boring, especially when Porsche's involved.
No, definitely not. Still looking forward to jumping into a Taycan for the very first time for myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that, I think, is a special car. Let's see if we can see what happened here on that RaceSpotTV replay once again. So it was Caron that shaped to the inside into the kink, and Adams tried to sweep around. Don't really know from that angle if it was Adams coming across, but that's a great shot of just how close Adams got to taking out the leader.
Oh, yeah, that was remarkably close. I mean, I think it's very, very hard to pick it out. Maybe the chopper cam here will give us a bit of an impression. Yeah, I don't really see where Karen was supposed to go there. He was kind of holding his line, and Adams kind of squeezed him in for me, but I'm not the steward. I'm glad, and thank goodness I'm not.
Yes, no, unfortunately rather, we are not stewards. Sim racing stewards also somehow have it both easier and harder. They have infinite camera angles, but are therefore expected to be even more perfect, as it were. Almost at the halfway mark of this race, Levesque's being closed on in. Levesque came third in the GT3 class in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022. Behind him, Antoine Lasharit, also finished behind him in the championship. Fourth in the championship earlier this year.
I want to turn the tables there as well, but Levesque, his gap's been brought down. It had been up to as much as 1.8 seconds. It's now just under a second. So Lasharit going very well. Set a superb lap time last time by a 204.3. I think Levesque made a mistake. He was in the mid 205s, 205.4 for Levesque last time by. So I think it was more a mistake for Levesque rather than anything else as well. But it's just now getting to the point where Lasharit might be picking up a little bit of slipstreaming, especially on the mountain straight heading up towards turn 2. That's really valuable.
So it's down to 7/10 as we knock 10 minutes off the clock. 9:50 still left to go after this. About as different as you could really get. We swapped the Porsche Mission R for a Porsche 992 Cup car, and we swapped Mount Panorama for Brands Hatch Indy. Look how much steering input. And that's not Antoine Lasharit on the right-hand side, by the way. That is Guillaume Levesque that really had to wheel that car in through the corner.
Yeah, he's having to really work hard on that wheel. It's great to get that insight onboard camera to see what the drivers are going through in these cars. And I think it's a great point you made, Arjuna. The car has only been on the iRacing simulator for 3 months, and because there's there hasn't been a great deal of top-level competition for the car yet. It's probably quite new to most of our drivers. I think that's Andrew Carron trying to get himself back to action and failing, unfortunately.
He's carrying off the wall, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Oh, you couldn't help yourself, could you?
Oh, well, Levesque couldn't help himself either there, almost into the wall, and I think we need to just spend a lap or two on board now with Guillaume Levesque, because there are 2 people hustling their cars harder than any. Levesque all the way to the wall through McPhillamy Park.
This is. Do you think we could ask one of them right now to ask if they're bored? Are electric racing cars boring? You bet they're not. Wow, this is fantastic stuff. Their drivers, Levesque just chopping back at the wheel, back and forth. I mean, this circuit really does bring the best out in any race car. But these machines, again, a bit like a V8 supercar, they've got a lot of weight on them, so you've got to manage that weight. Oh, Oh dear.
That's not a good
Is
place.
it Leisure?
Oh, and Gagnon Renault from the
he's
podium
off.
spots has lost it. Marc-Andre Seguin, the late notice replacement, will squeak on by. But what drama. This car is clearly tough to tame.
Oh, yeah, you bet it is. A lot of horsepower, a lot of weight. And, let's have a look. And that's a big one. Just carries a little bit too much speed there coming out through McPhillamy Park. And, yeah, you pay the price here at Bathurst. It is so tight. I mean, it is Macau Grand Prix tight going through the mountain section and just as fast. And, yeah, Ian Gagnon Renault is a seriously accomplished sim racer. And that was... just the rear just came away from him there. But we've got a showdown here with 7 minutes to go. The gap is coming down still. Lacherit, last time by, 0.02 of a second quicker, but he's edging closer to Levesque.
Yeah, two left standing, basically, as it were. Picking up the pieces, like we said, Marc-Andre Seguin takes the final step on the podium, but he is only 2.3 clear of Ian Gagnon Renault. So I don't think that is done and dusted. We might still have a fight a little further back, but only at the front is it getting quite exciting. Now, I did hear a bit of contact there for Guillaume Levesque. He is definitely pushing as hard as you like and almost pushes up into the wall.
Oh my word, there was just a little bit of understeer there as well, and you could almost hear him shouting, "Go turn, please, please don't understeer straight into that wall." But yeah, that Levesque is under pressure here as well, and you look at Antoine Lacherit, he is just a master of calm and serenity here as well. And I've just noticed both of these drivers, do they have Scottish saltires on their shoulders? Is that what that is? It looks it's blue in the background and white cross. That's the saltire flag of Scotland.
Yeah. We'll have to try and get word from the crew over at ASR Able as to maybe something over there. But good eye. Another reason why we love these driver webcams. Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly a big fan of that. Of course, a lot of Scottish people have emigrated to Canada. Of course, Shea Adams, she has, of course, very well-known Canadian racing broadcaster. She's got Scottish blood.
Looking forward, by the way, to the upcoming IMSA campaign. We just... Whoa! Lacherit has overcooked it! He tried, but unfortunately, he tried just a little too much.
I love this, the casual smirk on Levesque's face there, going, "Oh, nice try, my friend, but next time maybe." Wow, I tell you what, Lacherit, I thought he's closing in heavy on the brakes here, but do you know what, with 5 minutes to go, why not have a go? I love that racer spirit. Just think, do you know what, I'm going to go right to the edge here, and if you're going to go right to the edge, you occasionally will step over it. But Lacherit still hangs on to second position, a comfortable second position for now, but he went for it. He really went for it.
Let's see if we can grab a chat right now with Antoine Lacherit. Antoine, I mean, you gave it a good go there.
Yeah, thank you. A little bit of a mistake, unfortunately, but yeah. It is what it is.
Talk to us about this car, because it looks like an absolute monster to tame.
Yeah, it's very hard because it's really understeer, but it can snap you on the entry, especially on high braking. With a lot of undulation with this track, it's very hard to make it right.
Oh, well, we're going to let you go because, unfortunately, you're going to have to fight for the lead because Guillaume Levesque has had an issue of his own now, Peter.
Oh, well, I didn't quite see what happened to Levesque there, excuse me, but he seems to be carrying on okay. I'm trying to see if there's a bit of damage on the car. I can't spot anything, but that'll do it. Oh, hard in the wall. How's he got away with that?
This car must be a tank to have gotten away with it. So we ride through McPhillamy Park, over the top at Skyline. And is he just pushing just that little bit too hard, even with a 6-second gap behind?
Seems like it. Let's see. And that is probably what Antoine was just trying to explain to us there. In fact, he explained beautifully to us. Basically, the car's got a little bit of understeer on entry, and then the rear comes round on you. So you've really got to have such sharp reactions here as well. Oh, and again, that's sort of what Antoine was sort of explaining there. Again, a little bit of understeer on entry, and then the rear comes around. You've got to be on top of these machines.
I still don't understand how Levesque hasn't sustained more damage from that one. The racing gods have
I
truly
know.
smiled on him.
They build a strong car in Flak, that's for sure.
Apparently.
Wow. Well, do you know what? I was thinking to myself, Arjun, was reading up on this car and the Missionar and, of course, the GT4E Performance, which it's kind of born. I'd love to see one of these cars in the SPX class at the Nürburgring 24-hour.
Yeah, that
because they can be charged. They can be charged at 350 kilowatts. So, which is massive. I mean, a reasonably quick road car charger is 50. So that gives an impression. I think in the SPX class, this car with the right charging equipment could actually really spring a surprise at the Nürburgring. I think.
We do have a fight for the final step of the podium, by the way. We did get confirmation. Oh. It is a motion rig that Marc-Andre Seguin is in. It is a Next Level Racing seat motion within the Apex V2R Sim garage, which is why he's got some buddies alongside. And, well, he's got to try and fight with Ian Gagnon Renault. He'll have one lap to try and get back to the podium.
Oh, I tell you what, Ian Gagnon Renault, he is channeling his inner Gilles Villeneuve here. When you say Gilles Villeneuve, he was always so expressive in the car. And those Formula One cars of the late 70s, you really could see what the driver was doing. And, oh, these drivers are really having to work for their supper today, as we say here in Scotland. They are chopping at the wheel, and Gagnon Renault, big smile on his face. Well, I think we've proven concept here, Arjuna, that virtual, outdoor or otherwise, these Missionar Porsche electric race cars are super exciting to drive.
I think in general there is just something exciting about having instant torque, because it activates that 5-year-old part of your brain which never ages, which is like, I like tire smoke, I like car sideways, and it's quite easy with these machines. I don't know how much of the electric rallycross you watch, Peter, but that is also so fascinating.
Yeah, white flag in the air it is, isn't it? A white flag in the air, so it can Ian Gagnon Renault hang on, and Guillaume Levesque, he's used up all of his 9 lives in this race. He's skipped off the wall, he's had a firm contact with the wall a lap or two ago, but just one more lap of the mountain to go. He looks in the mirror, it's all clean. There's Antoine Lacherit, who's still 4.5 seconds back, so Guillaume Levesque is within 3/4 of a lap of a first win of the day of 3 races here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada Invitational.
Yeah, he's still got to survive. He's already made one mistake. How easy it will be from here, and this challenge mostly against the track. It's now going to be a challenge of pack racing at Brands Hatch Indy. It does not get much different than what we've got right now in store for you. We're going to enjoy a chat with some of our drivers post-race as Levesque, almost makes a mistake down at the dipper.
You really are hanging on by your fingernails through there in any car, but especially these machines, you really are. You're really demanding a lot of the driver. They're proper race cars. So Gagnon Renault, he is hanging on for 3rd, and we mustn't forget he started from 8th as well. And you know, as you rightly mentioned, Arjuna, there really aren't any overtaking opportunities throughout the entire mountain section, which is approximately half the lap. So to make those moves up the order, he's done a top job to get up onto the podium as well, and he'll be hoping to get a good qualifying in the 992 Cup car, and you never know what he might be able to pull out of the bag in that next race. But checkered flag being prepared.
This may be the toughest of our 3 combos, and Guillaume Levesque has been able to stand tallest at the mountain. He takes the Porsche Missionar to victory lane in the first race of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022 Invitational. And well, that sigh of relief and the reluctant smile, I think, tells you all you need to know, Peter, about just how difficult that was.
The huge big sigh of relief there for Guillaume Levesque. Of course, 4-wheel drive, so yeah, a little bit of rally crossing, absolutely encouraged. Maybe we could get these cars on the rallycross circuit. There is one at Brands Hatch, but we could use. But yeah, super drive there from Guillaume Levesque in the black and blue machine there, and winning by 4.6 seconds. Superb.
Look at that elevation change as well. You get the sense for what this track is truly about, and We don't have rain yet in 2022, Peter, but of course, you talked about the great Australian race, the Bathurst 1000. Well, just a couple of months ago when they came back over to Mount Panorama, torrential rain was the story of the weekend.
Yeah, as if it couldn't get any more difficult. Driving this circuit in the wet must be just so daunting. It's so daunting in the dry, but in the wet even more so as well. And you know, if you really have to feel for the guys in the supercars in the Bathurst 1000. You think those are real animals, those cars, and yeah, to throw a little bit of wet weather into that, boggles the mind.
Well, it is an invitational. I think it's only fitting that we stick around and we wait for the tradition. Well, I hope we're in for the tradition. I think it's time for a bit of a Bathurst jump here.
Oh, well, this is, if you're new to the iRacing platform, this is very much a tradition for any virtual race. Of course, no crash damage build to worry about as we're getting a bit of bump drafting down the Conrod Straight. There is a little bit of a trick that you can pull here. So the race is now over. But at the end of the chase here, please do not try this at home, or indeed if you are at Mount Panorama for real. Here we go, flat out through the chase. Can they do the jump? Oh, did it stick the landing? Oh, well, Levesque couldn't quite get it done.
Well, Ian Gagnon-Renault did a 360 and at least was pointed in the right direction.
He's landed it.
Big smiles on the face of all the drivers. Great fun. And just showcasing what esports can sometimes be about. We can lighten up and go out there and have some fun. Here's a look at the results. 10 laps, about 20 minutes of racing. It's an ASR Able Esports 1 and 2 Levesque from La Charite with Ian Gagnon-Renault atoning for the mistake in qualifying, working his way forward to the podium. Marc-Andre Seguin in fourth in front of Giovanni Romano, Matt Adams, Etienne Leger, and then Andrew Caron through the field of 8. And of course, Peter, they finished like this, and now they'll line up like this when we get ready to go again.
Ah, of course, yes. So that means, yeah, Levesque and La Charite will start on the front row of the grid, and that will be really important at Brands Hatch Indy. It's a really tight, twisty circuit, difficult to get the moves done cleanly. There's often a little bit of argy-bargy to get your way through to the front there as well. So having that strong grid position, very, very helpful indeed. But what a great tribute to Dr. Ferdinand Porsche himself there as well, because his very first racing car was actually electrically driven. It had an internal combustion engine and had electric motors at the wheels. That was in the early 1900s. He was a bit of a genius, was Dr. Porsche, and that car was called the Loner Porsche, but it was actually electricity and creating electricity which what really sparked the engineering part of Ferdinand Porsche's brain.
Let's head into some post-race interviews if we can. I'm going to have to try and get some help to do that. We were going to hopefully talk to Guillaume Levesque. Sorry to interrupt you in your story there, Peter, but I think this is the fun thing. We got to talk to Antoine La Charite during the race, and now we'll spend some time in between each of these races talking to each of the drivers about their 2022.
Well, this would be fascinating to hear how the drivers got on with their race there as well. Certainly from the onboard cameras that we saw, a lot of big movements being put into the steering wheel as well. And we saw our winner, Guillaume Levesque, a big breathe, a big sigh of relief there towards the end.
And I think now we are indeed joined by race number 1 winner. Guillaume Levesque is standing by. And Guillaume, well, you had to survive a nervy moment at the end, but you looks like you were pushing throughout the course of that 20 minutes.
Yeah, we were pushing, and the tires say no at the end, so I had a little moment in the deeper, and yeah, that was it. I almost lost the race there.
How much fun was this combo in your mind? Of course, I don't think this is a car that you've probably driven too much. Definitely a track that you've got plenty of experience at.
Yeah, I love the track because of the 12-hour, but the car, I got it like 2 hours ago or something like that. And we jumped in, and it was kind of fun, and it was really funny into qualifying with the extra super party mode that we have. Like we were, I think, 70k an hour faster in the back straight, so you need to adapt a lot. You're driving while qualifying, and then go back to the race set was a bit weird, but it was funny. It was funny.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll switch on over to your teammate, and we will try and get Antoine Lacherit in. Unfortunately, still, I do not have the permissions to do so. Peter, why don't you ask Guillaume a couple of questions?
Well, one thing that's intriguing me, Guillaume, is the patch on your right shoulder. Is that a Scottish saltire on your shirt there?
No, it's just a skin thing.
Oh, okay. The blue and white thing on your shirt. No, other side.
Okay. On my shirt, it's the Quebec flag.
Oh wow! Okay, it's remarkably similar to the Scottish flag, which is my country flag. Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. I like it. And is that why you've chosen the blue colours for the car?
We didn't choose the car.
Well, it's convenient then. It's convenient then. I mean, tell us about just a couple of laps towards the end there, Guillaume. You had quite a hard contact with the wall. Did that affect the car's handling at all?
A little bit on straight line speed, but not that much. So it was okay for me.
That was
just manage it.
It's a strong car because that was a big hit.
Yeah.
So looking into the next one, Porsche 992 Cup car. Is that a car you've got more experience with?
Yeah, we did the series for Canada last year and the other one before. So yeah, we have quite a lot of experience, but I don't have a lot of experience on this track, so it will be something.
Well, the good thing is you can learn it quite quickly because it's the shorter version, the Brands Hatch Indy. So that's helpful.
Yep.
Well, good
I'm on
luck.
it.
Good luck for the next race and have fun.
Thank you.
Guillaume Levesque joined us for a moment, winner of race number 1. We chatted with Antoine Lacherit for a moment just before we had to pull him back into the racing mode for a second. Peter Mackay is standing by.
Antoine, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box. That was certainly a very exciting race there. I mean, did you see Guillaume having that little mistake a couple of laps to go? Did you think you could maybe catch him up in the end?
Yeah, it was pretty tight. I think we were pretty fast in the specific corner, with him faster in the first part of the circuit, and I was faster on the track at the end. So tried to push a little bit more to find a little bit more pace to catch him, but unfortunately I did a mistake, and yeah, that's it.
It's looking ahead to the next race. We're going to change it up now. A much shorter circuit, Brands Hatch Indy. Is that a circuit you know very well? If so, how do you feel about it?
Not at all. I might driven this circuit 1 or 2 times, and it was the long one. So it's gonna be harder to find pace, but I think it's pretty much the same for everyone. So it's gonna be a tight race.
I think you'll enjoy it. It's a real we call it a helter-skelter of a circuit. A lot of big undulation as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then to the Porsche 992 Cup car. It's a car that's now well established on the iRacing platform. Is that a car which you feel comfortable in as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think the car I'm pretty good with. It changed a little bit with the last update. Not the last one, but the previous one. So it's a bit different to drive, but yeah, for sure it's a little bit easier than the other Porsche, the electric Porsche. So it's going to be a little bit easier.
Well, good luck for the second race, Antoine, and have fun.
Thank you.
From Antoine Lacherit, our final interview between Race 1 and Race 2. We'll quickly chat with Ian Gagnon-Renault, standing by now, to representative Pearson's Esports. Ian, let's start with what happened in qualifying.
Yeah, I just lost the car. That's pretty much the end of the story.
Did look as though you then had some fun trying to work your way through the field and trying to catch back up to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it was fun. The car is surprisingly fun. First time driving it, so it was good, some good battle. Maybe I thought I was going to catch the leaders, but I had fun again, so yeah. But yeah, it was good fun.
Are you part of the club where you only got the car about 2 hours ago?
Yep, yeah. And we didn't know what the track combination was, so I mean with the car, so pretty much zero prices for all those races.
Well, one final question, then we'll let you get back to the practice before we get going. 2 more cars, 2 more tracks, and 2 cars that you're a lot more familiar with now.
Yeah, not that much. I've been driving GT4 a lot for the past year now, so all those cars I haven't really raced in. I know I've driven them, but I haven't raced them, so we'll see. Just for some good fun.
Thanks for joining us, Ian. Best of luck in the next race. We quickly make our way across the world, Peter, from Mount Panorama over to Brands Hatch Indy.
And this is one of the joys of virtual motorsport, isn't it? Any cool combination you can think of, most of the time the iRacing platform can give it to you. And this is a circuit that's very familiar in British motorsport in my home country, and it's a cracker, Brands Hatch. The corner we're looking at right now, Paddock Hill Bend, so tricky under braking, turning in, and it really off camber, on camber, it's all over. And of course, these 992 Cup cars, they don't have traction control, they don't have APS, they have a lot of power, and they're very much a classic 911. The engine is much more to the rear than the middle, so that the way that the car behaves is very unique. If you can master it, you can really stand above the rest. This is the car where many Porsche factory drivers step through. They go through their regional Carrera Cup into the Super Cup and then on to being a works driver. If you can get this car right, it means big things.
It's a car as well that has two configurations in some ways. A lot of drivers will have used this car in a format where there's anti-lock brakes and traction control, but once you get to the levels that you're referring to, Peter, those assists go by the wayside. It is you and yourself working your way through. So I think we had some incorrect information, because it does look as though there was a qualifying session that was just going on while we were chatting with some of the drivers, but we are ready to go racing then for another 20 minutes, this time a very different sort of a race, not such a technical challenge, it's all about survival. It's going to be Guillaume Levesque once again on the front row, along with Antoine Lachery. It'll be Andrew Caron hoping to atone for what was a disappointing race number one, with Ian Gagnon Renault actually up in the fight this time. Matt Adams and Etienne Leger for Apex V2R share row number 3. Behind them, Marc-Andre Seguin and Giovanni Romano will round out the field of 8 cars getting ready to do battle. Maybe slightly counterintuitively this time though, Peter. Instead of a standing start with these 992 Cup cars, we're giving them the rolling canter once again.
Yeah, that's we will see them in most Carrera Cups starting from a standing start, and yeah, you really see the benefit of that rear engine layout of the 911 off that standing start as well. But rolling start here as well, that's going to be fascinating going into turn 1, how the drivers shake themselves out, but very close on pace. Yes, it's a lap of around 45 seconds or so, but just half a second between all of them. And we're now going to see, I think we might see the very truest form book here as well, because, you know, this is a car that's so popular on the iRacing platform. All the drivers know it really well, and if you want to be a top-level pro sim racer, you've got to be good in this car, because the very top level of virtual motorsport is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. So if you're not good in this car, well, you might as well pack it up.
And of course, a handful of these drivers did compete in this car in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022. Andrew Caron, of course, second in the championship, Levesque third, Lachery fourth, Matt Adams was fifth in the points. Still waiting for the cars to begin to pull their way around. Ian Gagnon Renault did mention it. He's one of the drivers that comes into this race with the championship in the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022. And there aren't many similarities between the Cayman GT4 and this 992 Generation Cup car, Peter.
Almost everything's different. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Everything you can think of being different. It's the only thing that's about the same as the badge, the Porsche badge. Yeah, completely different machines in every possible way. And yeah, so it will require different driving style. I love the fact that we have a Porsche pace car here as well. And actually, we would, I'm pleased to hear, Arjuna, that you know the Porsche configurator as well as I do. I always call this the 911 GT3 Touring pace car.
Nice.
So it's got the wide body, it's got the kind of the front bumper that looks as if it's it is a GT3. It's got the GT3 motor in the back there, but no wings, so it's a Touring.
Yeah, I have to limit the amount of time I'm allowed to spend on the Porsche configurator, Peter, because like I say, that can become a very expensive mistake.
Oh, indeed, but it's got to make sure you spec in both stereo, though. That's important.
Yes, as well as the chronograph at times as well. So, 20 more minutes, and like we say, It's not going to be like it was at Mount Panorama. I'm not expecting drivers to be making as many mistakes. We're instead expecting the racing to be close and passing to be frequent. 4 rows of 2 ready to go for 20 more minutes, this time at Brands Hatch Indy in the Porsche 992 Cup Cars for the second round of the 2022 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada Invitational. Side by side through the field, but once again Levesque leads them down and in towards turn number 2. Lacherit sees the challenge from Andrew Caron coming down the inside, but he sweeps the long way around and is able to get his way onto the power, maintaining the inside and holding on to second. A tidy start once again.
Very nice there from Guillaume Levesque, just made sure he executed well, gets the whole shot there as we head through already towards the final corner of the lap Clark curve here. And then you just make your way hard onto the Brabham, not really a straight, right around here, hard on the power, you are full gas here, and then up towards Paddock Bend as you ride with Andrew Caron. You can see trying to use as much room on the entry to the corner to open up Paddock Hill Bend. You just tap it in there as well and then carry as much speed as you can. All the drivers, well, they're all telling us they didn't know the circuit well. They look like they're using every last millimetre of it there.
This is definitely a circuit that many of them will know quite well. I will say one of the memories that I have from Brands Hatch, not in sim racing but in the real world, Peter, I don't know if you know the clip that I'm talking about, but it's the one, we'll get back to that one. Gagnon Renault trying to compromise Andrew Caron, and he's unsettled that 3 car on the inside. Now Gagnon Renault gonna have to watch as there's a contact from Matt Adams. They both hold on to it, but that was the opportunity that Gagnon Renault had to worry about. Matt Adams seeing the hole and diving his car there.
Well, Matt Adams, he's definitely he's building himself a reputation here of the bad boy of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada Invitational as well. He is getting his elbows out, is bang right into the back of Andrew Caron. There he goes as well. Adams is driving with ferocity here, trying to make his way to the front, because look, you can see Guillaume Levesque and Antoine Lacherit, although they're in different colours, they are teammates and they're making a breakaway at the front, and Matt Adams knows that if he wants to get the win here, he cannot let them get away, so he's got to try and get a move done by not quite any means necessary, but close to it.
Bit of separation now between second and third, and it's again Lacherit and Levesque, the ASR Able duo that continue to run 1 and 2 at the point. Bad Boy Matt Adams, I think that sounds like a bit of a nickname that we could throw his way. But don't forget, I've got Backstreet Boy Mackay next to me. You know what I'm referring to, Peter.
That's plucked out. That's going to come back and haunt me. Or, well, there it is. It already is. That was for charity.
Yes, the race against the flooded. I do kind of bring that up half in jest, but also because I do want to encourage those of you watching. Jeremy Bortbent holding his annual 23 hours for Zolder. Before the race had even got underway, he had raised £2,500 for mental health, and I remember in 2020 he raised almost £60,000-70,000, so I highly encourage you, go check in with Jimmy and see how he's doing, and if you can, every little bit does matter. I'll get back to the story hopefully now, although I think Matt Adams is going to try and throw a move to the inside of Andrew Caron, this time with a little less contact because Caron gives him a little bit more space, but locking up the right front, Matt Adams is costing this trio so much time.
Yeah, the great defensive driving from Andrew Caron. He's not throwing crazy blocks, he's just putting his car in exactly the right position, and you can do that here at Brands Hatch Indy. That's what makes it really, that makes the qualifying so important. So Matt Adams knows that he's on a really difficult run here as well. He runs Andrew Caron right out wide to the paint there as well, and that's allowed, excuse me, that was Gagnon Renault, excuse me. So he's running Gagnon Renault right out there as well. Gagnon Renault with the Gilles Villeneuve lean there.
Yep.
Oh, wow, it is. I love it. I love it. That is so Gilles Villeneuve. Yeah, give it the full body. Bit more. Go on.
He is quite committed to wins, and then lead the other way as he brought the car back underneath him. Etienne Leger unable to slide it on through, but Ian Gagnon Renault still trying to bring that car under control. Those tyres are going to be screaming out.
Well, that's the thing as well, that although the tyre model has changed this week, of course, at every quarter here in the iRacing platform, there's a big update, and that's where you see the biggest change in how the simulator behaves as well. So that's something for the drivers to get themselves on top of They've only had a few days to do that as well, but the way that the tyre reacts in the past, certainly, when you overheated the tyre, it was very difficult to get it cooled down. And of course, here at Brands Hatch, there is virtually no straight at all. You're always at least putting load through one side of the car, so if you overheat that tyre, you're never going to get it cooled back down again.
Front of the field, starting to stretch his legs is Guillaume Levesque, Antoine Lacherite. 9/10, now a full second back as he bounces his way over the curb. I had the pleasure of seeing these cars in action at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Porsche Sports Car Together Fest, and I talked to Riley Dickinson, one of the Kelly Moss racing drivers. And the thing that, you know, they always say about these cars, Peter, is they're mini GT3 cars, which you see the lap times and you're like, you know, I see that. They're mini GT3 cars. But then when you talk to the driver and you understand how they race, you don't really get the sense for just how sensitive they are in dirty air, as Caron makes another mistake, this time up at Druids.
Yeah, I mean, when they did their very first test, the first place to get the cars was North America. I mean, North America, since day one for Porsche, has been a really important market. You know, Max Hoffman in New York was pivotal to the success of the Porsche brand in the North American region. But so it was absolutely apt that these cars arrived first in North America a couple of years ago. And the first test was at Sebring. And yes, the tyre is slightly different. They're running a sprint racing tyre compared to an endurance racing tyre for the GT3 cars. But they were matching the GT3 pace around Sebring, which is quite remarkable, actually. Well, and that was in testing.
And it was even more scary because at the time they didn't have many chassis or spare parts. So if
quite right, yeah.
If you binned your car, that was you done. Maybe at least for the year, potentially for 2 years if you were unlucky and got stuck on a waiting list. So yeah, I think Sebring the super weekend as well, when they actually hit the track and we saw the competitive lap times, I think that was a real wake-up call when the fastest drivers in this car were going as quick as the gentleman drivers were in a GT3 machine.
Yeah, it's really impressive, but it just shows you the flexibility of the 911 platform. The tunes you can play with this car is remarkable. You can make it into a really raw knife-edge race car like this 992 GT3 Cup. You can turn it into an off-road car to go and do the Baja 1000 with a 911 Dakar. I was speaking to Romain Dumas earlier in the week, and he said they took it to a test facility in the south of France where they go and test Dakar cars. And he said he was, for 2 days, just smashing it over rocks. And he said, I honestly thought I would break it quite quickly, and the car never broke. That's a street version of the car. Or you can have the Targa, and you can go and cruise down Highway 1 in California. This car is such a Swiss Army knife, and it's been with us for, well, nearly 60 years. Incredible.
I tell you what, let's disturb one of the drivers and let's disturb the man that has maybe given us the most excitement so far in this race. Matt Adams unfortunately has to join us now in the RaceSpotTV commentary room. Matt, how are you enjoying the evening and afternoon of racing so far?
Oh, it's a ton of fun. I'm just glad to be back with the guys from the previous season and having some fun.
How different is it adapting between the Porsche Mission R and then jumping back to something more familiar in this 992 Generation Cup car?
It feels like going from a kayak to a Navy vessel. It's just different worlds entirely.
I think that's probably the most fitting analogy I've ever heard. We've disturbed you enough now, Matt. We'll let you go back to the racing. I do enjoy this sort of a more relaxed environment, Peter, where we can go and disturb them and not feel too guilty about it.
I love it. Yeah, it's great that the drivers have made themselves available for that. It's fantastic insight. Like you say, it's not usual to be able to do that. So fantastic stuff. And Matt Adams, he's charging hard. Great to hear that he's having fun there as well. And even with a woolly hat on, he's not breaking the sweat.
No, absolutely. And I do think that we should point out, we did disturb Matt Adams because he was about 6/10 back from Andrew Caron when we started talking to him. He was about 1.2 seconds back when we finished talking to him. Talking and driving is actually quite a difficult skill, and it's something that I think separates the more experienced from the less experienced, Peter, because we always talk about the stories of how Michael Schumacher was able to converse in engineering speak on the radio while punching in qualifying laps.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to spare bandwidth. The better you are and the more intelligent and prepared you are, the easier it will be to do other tasks while, racing. Whereas, if you don't have that bandwidth, I guess it's a bit like a computer. If the computer is exceeding its bandwidth, its performance level, it can't do any other tasks. It's a human being is exactly the same, and a racing driver is exactly the same. And that's why I remember Alan McNish explaining it beautifully in the era of the LMP1 hybrid. When Audi went up against Porsche and Toyota as well, and how the cars had an immense amount of complexity. And I remember Timo Bernhard telling me as well, he says the 919, it was really about understanding the systems, the technology that the car had, and being able to work that to its best advantage. That was the easiest way, or certainly the most productive way, to gain lap time. So yeah, that extra bandwidth, these drivers have it in spades.
You talked about Alan McNish, and instantly my mind goes to one place.
Oh no, damn, I knew that.
It goes to one place and one place only, and that is Le Mans, and next year, which is the arrival of the next generation of prototypes. And that Porsche 963 sounds spectacular. They just finished up testing at the World Centre of Racing, at least in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship paddock. A little bit of day running, a little bit of night running, and Peter, my word, we are in for a treat next year.
Oh, we are, and Porsche and Penske back together, and that combination has been only utterly dominant. I mean, look at the days of the 917-10 and the 917-30 Can-Am Spiders. They were dominant. The RS Spider in the mid to late 2000s, utterly dominant in the hands of Team Penske. And to have Roger Penske's outfit and Porsche back together, I mean, I think a lot of the other manufacturers and teams, when they heard that announcement coming out, they probably knew it was coming, but they probably thought, oh, please no. Because it's and for the other teams that are going to be running Porsches, of course, there's going to be more than just the factory team. It will encourage everybody to raise their game, because that's kind of just what Penske does.
I think that's what I got so excited about, is the fact that yes, Penske is there to shepherd the start of that car's development cycle, to get it through the gremlins and to get it to a state where JDC Miller Motorsports will take it in at some point in 2023, and we'll see them racing in North America as well. And of course, that's a car that will cross over to over the pond, head to the Circuit de la Sarthe, and fight alongside the hypercars. I mean, we are going to be spoiled over the next handful of years, and not just spoiled with prototypes, spoiled with GT3 cars as well. We mentioned it slightly earlier, Peter, but of course, the car that's upcoming in about 15 minutes time, the Porsche 911 GT3R, we'll say goodbye to it in about 2.5 weeks time at the end of the year, and we'll say hello to the 992 generation car that looks spectacular.
Oh, and Porsche GT3 cars, there aren't many other colour schemes that look better than the FAF Plaid. And that FAF Plaid has been so successful over the last few years. I mean, FAF Motorsports, their trajectory, their growth is absolutely remarkable. And the spirit that they have, it's a very successful dealership network in Canada, and with Porsche amongst other brands. And what they've done with their racing programs is quite incredible. I mean, just in the last couple of years, they won the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, GTD Pro Championship this year, the GTD Championship the year before that. They won the 12 Hours of Sebring, they won the 24 Hours of Daytona, all with that familiar Plaid and that 991 GT3R. I mean, I did ask actually Steve Bortolotti if Mr. Pfaff was going to hold on to that car, because apparently he's been given more than one very healthy offer for that very successful race car.
I'm not shocked.
I would think Porsche won it for their museum, it's won so much.
I get the sense that's probably going to be worth a pretty penny, although I think that's a car that needs to be preserved somewhere for the history books. One thing I'm curious what your opinion on this one is, Peter. I was talking with some of the Porsche USA people when I was at the Porsche Sports Car Together Fest, and I think the one thing that I was discussing with them is how much I love one thing that's quite unique now on the latest generation of Porsche cars, both on the road and on the racetrack as well, and that's the light bar at the rear.
Oh, big fan.
Good.
Yes, I'm a big fan. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really big fan. I mean, that always used to be the way to tell a Carrera 4S, was the extended light bar. Now it's very much a a part of the architecture as well, and all the I think they call it design language in automotive speak.
Yes, exactly.
Love it. The cars they just look great. There's a few 992s kicking around Edinburgh where I live, and yes, I'm always in my little 981 Boxster. I just think, oh, maybe one day I'll get an upgrade, maybe.
I will say I feel very, very sorry for anyone with our friends at Radio Show Limited who has to commentate on the 24-hour series next year, where you're going to have the 992 Generation Cup car alongside the 992 Generation GT3 car. Right now, one of the major differences is the distinctive lack of light bar at the rear. It's going to be a lot more difficult, especially in the night now.
In the night, for sure, it will. Yes, it will. I think it does look like a seriously purposeful car, the new 992 GT3R. It looks that little bit wider. It almost looks like a little baby RSR, actually. And I think with the RSR going into retirement, I do think that GT3 cars, with that category going to be the sole GT category at Le Mans, that's when these cars are going to get very, very serious very, very quickly. And that's going to change what the outlook of global top-level GT racing, I think. And how it plays out, I mean, it's impossible to predict, but it's certainly going to give us some very cool cars for the next couple of years at least, I would say.
I think this GT3 Premium, we have to see how it works before we actually come to a conclusion on it at the end of the day. It sounds like now it's optional, which I think is a big step in the right direction for getting more of the cars to the track at the end of the day, which is what we want to see. But we're also looking at potentially some very healthy prototype fields, so we are definitely going to be spoiled, I have a sense. 3.5 odd minutes left to go. We're watching a battle for sixth. Leger and Romano have closed themselves on up, but at the front of the field, it stagnated somewhat. It seems like everyone is basically at the same level or so. Ian Gagnon Renault has tried to take the rallycross layout here at Brands Hatch, though, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Oh, Ian. Oh, be careful. It's just coming out of Graham Hill Bend. It's been Graham Hill Bend in 30s. He's still smiling, though. That's good. It makes his way back on as well. The tire tracks. Yeah, the tire tracks tell us a good. I mean, if we were policemen, we'd have the pocketbook out writing notes there of the track. Whereas tire tracks are going, oh, big slide there from Antoine Lachery. He's actually coming under a little bit more pressure from Andrew Caron, but in turn is actually closing in a little bit on Guillaume Levesque. So this is very much a repeat of race one, where Levesque did have a handy gap, and then it just started to just reduce a little bit. But is the bearded Quebecese, is he just controlling it? And dear me, that just shows you that these cars bite. If you try to take a liberty with them, which Gagnon Renault just did there, just took a bit too much curb, and they if you do something they don't like, they will tell you.
So 45-second lap times here. I think we've still got about 4 laps to go, and 7/10 splits each of the top 3 cars. Caron makes a slight mistake through the middle part of the corner. Doesn't lose too much ground, but just a crucial 100th here, a crucial 100th there. It's a car which really puts you on the limit, and it's why it's, like you pointed out earlier, Peter, the final step before you can be classified and considered a Porsche factory driver for so many.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the drivers that have come through Carrera Cup, like, you know, Earl Bamber came from Carrera Cup Asia, did 2 years Carrera Cup Asia, then to the Super Cup, and then all of a sudden he's in the 919 hybrid and he wins the Le Mans. That's the pathway these cars can give you. I mean, Matt Campbell, he came through the Carrera Cup again on the Porsche Young Driver Program, and again, he's going to be in the Porsche 963 with Team Penske next year. So that is the opportunity, the platform this car gives you, and it's actually the same in the iRacing platform. Yeah. This is the car that can make you a sim racing star, a pro sim racing driver. Antoine Lachery just gets it all lit up there as well. That gives Guillaume Levesque a little bit of an edge, but it gives Caron an opportunity to try and pinch second here.
It's 2 laps to go as well. Now tires well and truly toasted on Lachery's car. How much grip does he still have? This will be the primary opportunity, I think, for Caron to try and throw a surprise. But he's going to be fair about it. He's going to set this one up, and he's going to, I think, wait for the final lap of the race. No doubt about who's walking out with the second victory of the night. Looks like 2 for 2 for Guillaume Levesque. Lachery, though, feels the pressure as we wind to the final laps. It also looks as though Etienne Leger has gone off into the gravel at Druids.
Oh, it was plenty high-profile drivers have ended up in that gravel trap, that's for sure. Oh, and it looked like he tried to make a move there on the on the one car there of Marc-Andre Seguin, and just got it a little bit crossed up there under braking. But Lasherit holds on for now. They're just going to go into overtime. Just one more lap now to go. They nearly got the checkered there, but got the white flag instead, and that gives Andrew Caron one more opportunity to try and get a move done here as well. But Lasherit, he's going to have to just run that defensive line in that number 6 car, not wanting to give an opportunity. Oh, he's pushing.
He's wiggling back and forth, but he should have done just enough to hold on, unless Andrew Caron can find the door through the final corner. Lasherit, picture perfect. But at the front, pixel perfect is Guillaume Levesque, 2 for 2 in the 2022 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada Invitational. And again, not that much emotion because there's an hour of racing left to go now. And it's over to Interlagos, and it's over to the Porsche 911 GT3R.
Oh, and a big smoky burnout there as well from Guillaume Levesque. Beautiful skill there as well. Big smile, and rightly so as well. That was a silky burnout there.
Silky drive as well.
Oh.
Not so silky there, but in the first race, you could tell that he was feeling a little bit of pressure. This time, did not seem to be the case.
Yeah, he looked comfortable there. You're right, Arjuna. He just knew the lap time that he could hit consistently was good enough, and he just kept hitting his marks. Didn't make a mistake. Lasherit, well, he's all attack all the time. He's got that kind of Kevin Estre style. He's just going to put it right up to the limit all the time, and when it comes good, it's gold.
Take a look at the race results. 2 for 2 so far for Guillaume Levesque, but a 1-2-3 for ASR Able Esports with Antoine Lasherit and Andrew Caron rounding out the rest of the podium. Matt Adams, we unfortunately interrupted him midway and maybe interrupted the charge. He's 4th, and at least inside of the top 5 for Apex V2R, in front of Giovanni Romano, Etienne Leger, Marc-Andre Seguin, and then Ian Gagnon Renault, the 8 cars that we saw out on track for race number 2. And I call out 8 cars here, Peter, because we've got a 9th joining us at Interlagos as Sulio Almeida joins the fun.
Yes, it appears from our RaceSpotTV YouTube chat that Sulio had a scheduling malfunction, shall we say.
Yes, he almost did what I did, which was confuse time zones, I think, as well.
I've done that before.
It's nasty, isn't it?
That keeps you. You know, when you wake up at night in a cold sweat, it's time zones. You just that's it. It's one thing that is the biggest killer of sleep is worrying about time zones.
So I tell you what, Peter, I'm going to leave you with Andrew Caron for a couple of questions here, because we chatted with Levesque, we've chatted with Lasherit. I think we need to chat with a couple more of the drivers.
Good idea. Let's have a chat with Andrew Caron. Andrew, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box.
Thank you. Thank you to have me.
Well, those last few laps were pretty exciting there. You were really pushing, but couldn't quite get the job done. Now, was there any opportunity to try and get a move done? Or where are the opportunities on this track?
Well, I think the only opportunity that I had was when he actually made the mistake. But after that, our pace was so close that it was really, really hard to get a run on him. So I tried my best, but I couldn't get any other opportunity to pass him.
This car has a lot of power. It can be a little bit wild and leery when it wants to be. What's it like trying to drive it on this quite small, tight, narrow circuit?
I would say it's quite hard. I mean, I didn't drive the car for a while, and with the new update, it seems that the car is a bit easier to drive, but it can like surprise you because it starts easy, but it gets really hard when you burn those rear tires.
And that's something that I'd love to hear your thoughts on, Andrew. The tire is something that evolves all the time here on the iRacing platform. I mean, it's obviously a short race, 20 minutes. Was tire wear a concern by the end of those last few minutes?
I would say yes, it was a big concern. I pushed a lot to catch up to Antoine, and I think I paid at the end. My car, I was struggling to put the power down.
Well, thank you for the insight, Andrew. Good luck for the next race at Interlagos, and have fun.
Thank you very much.
Good little chat there with the third of the ASR Able drivers on the podium. Let's have the chance, though, to chat with Giovanni Romano, because quite curious to get his take on jumping from the GT4 car, which he competed in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022, over to the bigger brother in the Porsche 992 Cup car. Giovanni, how was that race from your perspective? I'll give Giovanni another try. Giovanni, do you have a copy? The beauties of live broadcasting. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to be joined by Giovanni Romano. Instead, I tell you what, Peter, why don't you chat with Etienne Leger?
Etienne, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box. Do you have a copy? Oh, they do not like drivers to be shy, Arjuna.
Apparently, they just don't like us very much, you know what I mean?
Oh, what did we say?
Let's go and find someone who we know that does want, or at least like to talk to us occasionally. Let's talk to Ian Gagnon Renault once again. Ian, do you have a copy with us?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Took 3 attempts, but we found someone who could listen to us. Talk to us a little bit about that race. You did mention it when we talked to you just about 30 minutes ago. You competed in the GT4 car in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022, but the 992 car is, of course, the top level of iRacing World Championship competition.
Yep, it's a lot different. No ABS, no traction control, so yeah, something to learn on the fly like this is a bit more difficult, but yeah, still had quite a battle, some good battle at the beginning, but the tower was dead and half a spin, so damage as well, so I just decided to get some practice in advance for the next race.
Talk to us about the incident that you did have. Exactly what happened. We saw maybe a bit of curb usage there.
Yeah, like, when we were on the grass and power as well, and just went to the wall, so it was the end.
So now over to Interlagos, a track where, of course, we know that the tires can be blistering. It's a GT3 car which has undergone a significant overhaul. Have you talked to your teammates at Pure Sims to understand a little bit more about this car?
Yeah, maybe I don't even know if the tire is going to last the whole hour, so it's going to be just to discover if I'm going to take tires or not at the pit stop, because we're supposed to have a pit stop, so yeah, of course, I'm going to learn as we go, I think.
I've also been asked to ask you about the lean, because it's a pretty significant lean that you've got going on there, very Gilles Villeneuve-esque.
Yes, yeah, I guess it's always been there. I tried to stop doing it, but it just makes me slower, so yeah, I've always done it. When I went to the Porsche Experience, I was doing it in the Porsche, so I think it just I like to lean when I don't know, when I drive. I don't do it when I go at like 50 kilometers an hour, but when I go fast, I kind of lean.
Hey, fair enough. We all do what makes us go fast. Good luck for an hour-long race that we've got coming up. I think 2 pit stops, not the 1.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, that was an interesting O as well there, Peter, from the Pure Sims Esports driver. Let's talk about Pure Sims Esports as well, because it's a team that we're intimately familiar with, owned and operated by the multi-time British touring car champion, Ash Sutton.
Yeah, it's great to see the team doing as well as it's done. I mean, they've 2 series which we broadcast here on the RaceSpotTV network. I mean, the World Touring Car Series and the World GT Championship. They've had a lot of success over the last few seasons there with one of their drivers, Ross McFarlane. And yeah, they just go from strength to strength. And it's great to see an international flavour in the team as well. Of course, the team is based in the UK, but again, the beauty of virtual motorsport, you can have drivers all around the world. And in GT3 machinery, particularly the class that we're about to go on to now, the team have a lot of mileage and a lot of experience.
I tell you what, Peter, because the drivers have a handful of moments of qualifying once again. We are live on track with that part of the on-track coverage. Interlagos, such a historic location, fast-flowing. We'll talk about its technical nature in a handful of moments' time, but I think we should talk to the man who has joined us a little bit late in the day. It's the 2021 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 911 GT3 Cup champion, Sulio Almeida. Let's see if we can bring on in Sulio and have a little bit of a chat. Sulio, are you standing by?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So joining us a little bit late, but I guess better late than never.
Yeah, I had unfortunately had a little problem with my agenda. I was 100% sure it was starting at 7, and then when I realized it was already going on, I was like, oh my god, I need to run. So I kind of like succeeded in joining the last one at least.
I'll ask you about, it's been a busy weekend for you already. Ask you about a bit about VCO Pro Sim Infinity. How was that for you? 24 races in 24 hours.
Oh my god, it was intense, and it's amazing to see such a huge event and so many big names at the same time. At Daytona, the last race, pretty much half a second was dividing 35 cars. So you can imagine the level. One mistake, 1/10 mistake, you lose 10 positions. So it's just a great learning experience. Really, really good learning experience that, helps you setting the goal for next year.
Let's talk a little bit then about your goals for next year, of course, because we're wrapping up 2022. It's been a very busy year for you, a very successful year. What's your aims as we move forward and turn the page to the next year?
Yeah, so I wanna, because so many things are happening in terms of coaching and driving in real life, and you end up having a little bit less time to practice the sim racing thing, So right now my goal is to get more into sim racing, to get 9,000 iRating, and to, keep improving, keep sharp the technique, because if you stop practicing for 1 week, you can see how everyone just goes and passes you. So it's just a sport that requires such dedication to keep your level high. So that's my goal for 2023.
I love it, 9,000 iRating, and now I've got an excuse, Peter, for why I'm a terrible driver, because I haven't practiced in about 3 years because I've been doing this commentating thing instead.
I would say that's a good excuse to stick to. I would say.
I know, right?
That's a great excuse to stick to. But yeah, you're still handy enough to do some of our track guides, though.
Sometimes, but I was going to say, we can't be all as adaptable as the great John Hindorf to hold an FIA race license.
Yes, true.
I think a lot of people don't know that about John, and it's one of the things that I admire the most about him.
He mentions it enough.
Yes, fair.
Yeah, he did get a run in Till Bechtolsheimer's. Now let me get this right. A JCB branded Chevron in the Silverstone Classic last year. Yeah, so yeah, John's had to go in quite a few different tasty things. But qualifying ticking over, we're about to go GT3 racing at Interlagos.
I tell you what, there are a few tasty Porsches that I'd like to have a go in. Plenty of interesting Porsche race cars. This a very successful one that in the real world we wave goodbye to in 2022. It's time to jump into the Porsche 911 GT3R. Let's run you down how they'll line up for a 1-hour race with an expected 2 pit stops through the course of the action. It will be Antoine Lacherie that gets us underway with a 132.875. Andrew Caron alongside in the front row. Sulia Almeida, well, better late than never, like we were saying. He'll be inside of Guillaume Levesque in the ASR Able Esports entry. Matt Adams and Etienne Leger once again share row number 3, while behind them, Marc-Andre Seguin, Ian Gagnon Renault, and then Giovanni Romano make up now 9 cars that will do battle for a long old hour here at Interlagos. Track conditions, something that you can always talk about when you come to Brazil, because, well, I don't know about today, but traditionally sometimes you see them upwards as high as 70 degrees Celsius. Yes, it can be scorching here, of course, in the southern hemisphere. Today, fortunately, Peter, for all the drivers, tyres not going to be tested as much.
Yeah, 38 degrees Celsius, certainly a lot more pleasing, although we are at kind of 10 to 1, so that we could just get a few more degrees in there as well. A few drivers mentioning if they can make the tyre last over that hour. That's going to be a real challenge as well, and a little bit of an unknown, of course. A new tyre model that's come in just this week on the iRacing platform. You used to be able to kind of get a double stint on them without too much fuss. But now getting to the end of that single stint is going to be tough, and particularly here at Interlagos, there's a lot of changes of direction. There's a lot of constant load on the tyres, so we'll see how that one plays. This is going to be a kind of voyage of exploration a little bit for these drivers.
You say new tyre model, but I think the thing that I'm both looking forward to maybe seeing, but also hoping we don't see too much of, Peter, is the arrival of a new damage model to this Porsche 911 GT3R, which will mean we'll see body parts fly off a little bit more easily. Body parts crumpling, I think, in general is a good way to kind of describe it. It does mean you can get away with certain things. There's also plenty of things you can't get away with still.
Well, let's hope we don't see that damage model exercised too much. Hopefully we'll see some good clean racing. I mean, so far the racing's been excellent, firm and fair. And apart from Bad Boy Adams, of course, he's definitely created that aura around himself as well. But I think he's going for this feature race as Adams. He's managed to instill a bit of fear around himself over those first couple of laps. Yeah, a bit of mind games.
Yes, so that's important in sim racing, especially because you never really see each other. We get to see 6 of the drivers here as we see Ian Gagnon, Renault, Guillaume Levesque, and then a handful of other drivers. Sulio Almeida is the one that joins us as well to add to the collection. I say mental warfare is important because you usually never see your drivers, but Peter, I've started to experience the joys that is in-person sim racing events when if you crash into someone, you may have to actually physically apologize to them.
I think that's one of the things is that if you're in a racing paddock, if you punt somebody off, then they are going to come to your awning and shout at you, and that does make people think twice. I think the in-person event is definitely a big plus for the future, I would say.
Yeah, it's a different sort of an atmosphere. It's a very interesting environment as well. Now, Sulio Almeida has gotten an end-of-line penalty for missing the first 2 races, so he has to do the hard work from the back. At the front, Lacharit and Caron, the teammates that battled for second last time out when we went racing at Brands Hatch. This time they duel at Interlagos. Already, we throw it 3 wide as Bad Boy Adams searches for the race lead. He will squeeze Andrew Caron all the way to the inside of turn number 2. Lacharit forced to bounce his way over the curb. They're 2 wide, 2 rows deep. Once again, a nice and tidy start, but down the hill into turn 4, who prevails for the race lead?
Oh, Lacharit holding that inside line as they come into Decido del Lago. And does he hang on to it just about? He gives Andrew Caron racing room. Caron keeps the throttle open and runs it out. Could Caron get the inside here as they head up through Ferradura and La Regueña? And yeah, look, it looks like he does. So the 27 of Andrew Caron in the white and black machine takes the lead. Does Lacharit snap straight back? No, not quite. So Andrew Caron leads here in this 1-hour feature race here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada Invitational.
Ian Gagnon Renault tried to get the move done on Matt Adams, but now defends as Sulio Almeida will shuffle to the outside and try and work his way back forward. He has managed to get back to the inside as they dive down the hill in towards that crucial run all the way into turn 1. Gagnon Renault takes some liberties with the track, slideways all the way through the corner. He will slide back to 8th. Now struggling a little bit more, might even drop to 9th. Almeida already back up to 5th.
Oh, there would have been some leaning on board there in the Ian Gagnon Renault Porsche number 23 car, but it's Andrew Caron who leads away in the white and black, almost like the Works WEC coloured RSR there. Very cool colour scheme with that white and black, nice and simple, but very, very cool. Then it's the yellow and black car, Antoine Lacharit, Guillaume Levesque. 2 wins from 2 so far. Can he make it a triple? And of course, this is an invitational of the best drivers seen in the history of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. And to be able to get a triple in that invitational event, that'll give him a lot of bragging rights for future competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just a reminder, 3rd in the 992 class in our 2022 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada was the 888 of Guillaume Levesque. And of course, it's been quite a while since the championship drew to a close. June the 23rd was the final round back at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Our champions walked away with a experience at the Porsche Track Experience, a Tagcore connected watch, some premium Bose noise-cancelling headphones, Porsche Motorsports backpack, a thermos mug, and some iRacing credits. Not a bad prize packet, if we are being totally honest. At the front, 3 cars are trying to stretch their legs and break away. It's Bad Boy Adams that might have to work together with Sulio Almeida because something that we saw in ACO Pro Sim Infinity was the fact that in these GT3 cars, apparently, Peter, bump drafting is a thing.
Oh, well, we have seen it done in the outdoor world as well. It can be done. It's pretty risky, but it can be done as well. you mentioned there those Bose noise cancelling headphones. That's what I'm using right now, and they're wireless as well, so I can move around the commentary box quite easily as well. And I tell you what, the noise cancelling very good on public transport as well. Those Bose noise cancelling headphones. I would not travel without them.
Yeah, I have a 15 hour flight back to Singapore on Monday. I'm very glad I have my Bose QC35s charged up and ready to go. And I have the airplane adapter as well, so I can watch movies on the plane while still having my noise cancellation, because cannot give that up. I don't go as fancy as you though, Peter. Clearly I do, because noise cancelling even in my own room would be quite nice. I have this terrible affliction. It's called shouting quite a lot, to the point where my Apple Watch actually warns me that I'm in an environment which is too loud for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Oh dear, the number 6 machine there, Etienne Leger, has to loop it around and get back going again.
No harm, no foul, though.
No harm, no foul, and that's one thing at Interlagos is there is quite open in the infield. If you get it wrong in Ferradura, you can find yourself in the wall, but there are other parts, expanses of the circuit where you can have a spin and not hit the wall, which is always nice. And of course, in this race where strategy and pitting at the right times is going to be important, it's not all said and done, and just loses the rear of the car, just turns around on him there, just steps over the edge.
So with 5 minutes done, like we said, it is 3 cars that have started to now extend that advantage even further. It's 1.5 between Levesque and Adams. Almeida not able to get a move done on bad boy Adams, at least just yet. This is part of why I enjoy being a commentator so much, Peter. We get to give people nicknames if they don't already have nicknames.
Yeah, yes, we might be one that we're missing out there as well. But yeah, often commentators are responsible for creating nicknames, and Bad Boy Adams, that's one you'd want to. You could definitely sell merch with that on it. That's for sure. I think the point of any racing nickname, it's got to look good on merch.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's funny you say that. I'm a mixed martial arts fan, and there's a podcast that came up with a nickname for a fighter. It took on popularity on social media. The fighter didn't like it until he realized that he could make merch off it and profit off it, at which point he took it on as his official nickname. Speaking of merch, have you just seen Scott McLaughlin's come out with a bunch of t-shirts?
Has he? Ah, interesting.
A man that I want to see in that Porsche Penske 963
I know.
At some point in the near future, and I say that because as well, he's going to be racing at Daytona in an LMP2 car.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at that. My shiniest pound, and I'm Scottish and I don't give them away very easily. My shiniest pound was actually seeing him in the 4th seat in the Penske car, but it just shows you he's going to have to prove his worth, and it also proves that he's in for the long term at Team Penske as well, doesn't it? And I think, do you know what? I'm a huge Scott McLaughlin fan for a variety of reasons, but. Oh, so we've got a challenge for the lead here. We'll have to pause that one. As you can see, Antoine Lacherie gets the move done then at Decido del Lago and moves by. And Andrew Caron now having to be defensive to Guilherme Levesque, who's looking very, very strong.
3 teammates again, remember, at the front, so I don't think they're going to stumble over each other too much. And I get the sense that they'll try and work together to build the advantage and then tango towards the end. Confirmation on the fuel capacity restriction for this race. 40% is the fuel capacity, so take the 120 litres or so that these Porsche 911s usually carry at a full tank of fuel, left with 48 or so litres left in the tank. And Peter, that should mean, with a full tank usually taking you to about an hour, we should indeed see 2 pit stops. The variance will be, as we were wondering with Ian Gagnon Renault, is anyone going to take tyres?
Oh, that's a real conundrum, because yeah, it's not split perfectly into 3 stints, is it? You're going to have one slightly longer stint than the other. Oh yeah, and for also Guilherme Levesque, he's doing a perfect job here as well. He doesn't actually necessarily need to really bust too much of a gut here trying to get past Andrew Caron or Antoine Lacherie. He's just got to run the pace here. And I'm interested to get a listen going into Decido del Lago, the next corner, to see if he's going for some lift and post action here to save some fuel.
Let's listen in then. Oh, He's right onto the clutch. We don't even listen there. You can see it in the revs. Didn't shift up to 6th, and that's a good spot there, Peter. I don't think you're going to be able to save enough to cut out a pit stop, but maybe you reduce the pit stop lane at the very least. Almeida, by the way, finally gets past Adams, but now has to work on a 2.3 second deficit to the teammates up front.
Yeah, I think Almeida and Adams are going to have to work really hard here. They're going to have to work together to try and get up into that leading conversation. They'll have to do that by giving each other the draft.
That was a big snap of oversteer from Matt Adams, and he's lost about half a second just through that second left-hand hairpin. Not too much time lost, fortunately, and I don't think he put too much heat through the tyre, so he'll be able to grip that car back up and go, and once again, we get to look on board with those two drivers.
He always looks so calm, doesn't he, Matt Adams? And then I think he's just got a little bit of a bandwidth issue there where the screen freezes, but actually you don't really notice the difference because he's so calm in the car. We'd certainly notice if Ian Gagnon-Renault's screen froze because he's all over the place in the car. Matt Adams has even got time for a quick sip of a tasty beverage as well. Well, Guillaume Levesque, he's going to make a move here on Karen, so he obviously doesn't want to see he doesn't want to see Laschery escape, so the fuel saving's all well and good, but that's only going to work if Laschery doesn't escape, and he is escaping, so Levesque, he's not going to have the luxury of fuel saving anymore, and Karen, he's defending the position. This is great news for Laschery.
Yeah, Levesque actually did get back onto the clutch to save some fuel because he saw his teammate cutting him off. Still a second, so Caron within drafting range, but it's a very different sort of a race to what we had in both the combinations with the Missionar at Bathurst and then the 992 car at Brands Hatch Indy, because, well, now there's that strategy element to play out as well, and you can have strategy in a 1 hour race, Peter. I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Well, you certainly can when you've got 2 pit stops within that hour in a car, which you very rarely do that. So yeah, the drivers are really going to have to think on their feet here, and then again, that all comes back to that bandwidth, being able to drive at the limit and be able to calculate fuel numbers, etc. as well. And again, that's where a good support network, being part of a good team, if you've got someone spotting for you or doing strategy, that could be a huge advantage as well. So Levesque, I mean, yeah, why would he be saving fuel? Well, that just reduces the amount of time he needs to spend at the pump, and that could be enough to hop past somebody. The problem is that, yeah, they're 1.2 seconds down the road from Lascherit, and Lascherit, he's trying to drop the hammer here. Last time by, 132.7, Karen and Levesque, 133.4. There was 0.7 of a second between them, and Karen is slowing them both up here by running really defensive line. Levesque's got a tight line here. I think he might have enough to get this done as he come into Desierto del Lago. Won't be full saving here. He's got to hit the brake deep here to try and get this move done on Andrew Karen, but Karen's going to tough it out around the outside now.
Side by side through the entirety of the first sector, and the outside converts back to the inside. All this fighting may be in vain for Guillaume Levesque because Andrew Caron will hold on to second. The margin to the leader up to 2 seconds. The margin behind down to 1.5. Levesque again shaping to the inside as they work their way through the infield. Fantastic fighting to watch. The biggest smile on the face of Antoine Lascherit.
Lascherit will be able to see this in his mirror, and if he is working with a spotter, which he likely will be, his spotter will be saying, "You're in dreamland here. Push on," because they're holding each other up. They're actually tripping over one another, or Karen and Levesque. So go for it. This is going to be another huge delta in the favour of Lascherit and Almeida, the fashionably late Almeida and bad boy Adams. They're making their way up into this conversation for the podium as well. They're actually working together, not against one another. Here comes Levesque. He's got the inside line again. He's going to have to be really brave on the brakes here.
Nope.
And yes, snips the line off. Oh, he's saying, right, enough. So Levesque's going to have to pull it out here.
You don't have to be brave if you finally realize that it's smarter to stop fighting, because you're not closing 2.5 seconds without working together here, and Antoine Lascherit has been able to mind the tyres while Levesque and Caron went back and forth and put a little bit more wear onto them. He maybe now has the benefit of thinking, oh, I can afford to not take tyres. All of these little games to be thinking about, and I still think maybe a lap ago it would have been wiser to give the move up. It was great for us to watch, but they'll be looking a little bit nervously in the rearview mirror. So many exciting... Sorry, go ahead.
No, my apologies. Last lap by, Lacherit took 1.2 seconds out of Levesque. That is seriously painful at this level.
And we look on board with him now as well. Sunday drive for Antoine Lacherit as he heads down the hill into this crucial corner, whose name I dare not pronounce, because RaceSpotTV, co-founded by 2 Brazilians. Are you feeling brave, Peter?
Well, our producer, Hugo Luis from Rio de Janeiro, he actually said my Brazilian accent was quite good, actually.
Oh, lovely. So, okay, I think we're going to leave you as the responsibilities to pronounce Yunsao.
Yuncao.
There you go, much better than me.
Yeah. Mind you, I might slip into... I've got the danger of slipping into more of a Spanish accent, which, of course, is not what you should do in any shape or form.
I love the hybrid accent. That would be Brazilian, Scottish, and Spanish.
Yes, absolutely. What a fast racing driver that would make.
Oh yes.
Yeah, as well. Who would that be? So that would be Elio Castro Neves.
Throw in
Dario
some Franchitti.
Let's put Manish and Franchitti. Daytona, you need 4.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Spanish. I think we'll put in there Spanish. Alonso. You'd put Alonso in, wouldn't you?
There's so many from Spain. That's the thing. So Alonso's a very worthy.
No. I'd put Antonio Garcia. I would put Garcia in for.
I was waiting
Daytona
for the Corvette.
Over, yeah.
I was waiting for the Corvette buyers to seat back in. To be fair, we know that you love your Corvettes. We know you love your Porsches as well. And tell us about some of the interesting things that you've been doing on that Porsche Sport podcast recently, Peter.
Oh, well, actually, very topical to Canada. We've had both Steve Bortolotti and Corey Whiteman from Pfaff Motorsports on the show. Steve is the team manager, and Corey is the chief mechanic for that squad. And one thing that we tried to do on the Porsche Sport podcast is try to uncover stories in the Porsche world, whatever they might be, and just that, the results of Pfaff Porsche are there for everyone to see, but we really wanted to get to the bottom of why that is and the spirit that the team have, and that really came out in the interview. So that was a whole lot of fun. And Romano and Gagnon Renault are having a whole lot of fun here as well. Gagnon Renault trying to find a way through on Romano on the inside line here, deep. It's such a unique corner, that opening corner. So many different lines to take, and that's why you see 2 lines converging there. You see a lot of contact in that corner usually.
Yeah, a lot of leaning as well from Ian Gagnon Renault. I did wonder how much they're leaning as he's making contact with one another. Not so much leaning as he jinks back to the inside, but back over to the left he funnels as he works. Now there are some that, even if they aren't in a motion rig, Peter, actually secure themselves with a 4-point harness to their rig. I always do wonder about that, because that can't be very comfortable for a long endurance stint.
Do you know, it's funny actually. I actually really like the feel. I don't have it on my sim rig. I don't have that level of sophistication, but I love the feeling of being held in by a 4-point harness. I wouldn't have one on a street car. Oh, is Gagnon Renault's off again? Oh, big lead. Yeah, I wouldn't have it on a street car I was using often. I did have it on a kit car once that I borrowed for the day, and it just got a really comfortable feeling. You just felt so secure, and yeah, I can see why it's such an... I mean, obviously it's hugely important for safety, but on a race car, but it kind of has it's kind of like a familiar hug, actually. It just gives you a little bit of confidence, a little bit of safety feel. Yeah, well, I liked it.
I do like a bucket seat, so I kind of know what you mean. I enjoyed the feeling of being ensconced in a bucket seat. I guess
if it fits.
If it fits, well,
yeah.
I was trying to decide if I was going to embarrass myself publicly again or not, and I guess I will. When I was chatting with Riley Dickinson, he quite kindly invited me to come and see his car, and then invited me to sit in his car. But Peter, you and I have unfortunately not had the pleasure of meeting just yet. I'm 6'5". I'm 196 centimeters.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a short lad.
You need to get in Cooper McNeil's car.
Maybe that was the issue. So I throw my legs into the car, all under the guidance of the lovely Riley Dickinson, and he tells me, okay, now grab the cage and swing your upper body in. But unfortunately, my legs are so long, misproportional to the rest of my body that when I tried to grab the roll cage / roof, I grabbed air instead and ended up in slow motion falling backwards out of the car with my legs knocking up all sorts of things, and I got very scared for a moment. I had just broken a very expensive race car.
That didn't go very well, by the sense of it. Yes, but there have been many good. I mean, Jörg Bergmeister, Porsche legend. He's that sort of height. Lucas Luhr was very tall as well.
Yeah.
Jörg, I'm pretty sure Jörg's 6'5" as well. And but of course he co-drove with Patrick Long, who's, let's just say, not 6'5". He's more 5'5" than 6'5". But he always looked at the size of Patrick Long's seat insert when he drove with Jörg Bergmeister. It was like one of those like car booster seats for that you would kind of throw in as well. But it worked. It worked perfectly.
And now, of course, it's quite interesting seeing the different ways that the manufacturers adjust the interior of the cars to be quicker in pit stops and whatnot. And for example, it's now you've a lot of the time got the movable pedals and whatnot, Peter, which I'm not a race car driver, so I'm not the right person to ask about this, but I always wonder how you can trust that a movable pedal box is going to stay where you need it to be.
As long as you're in a Porsche, you'll be fine. You know that it'll have been thought out properly. That's the one thing for sure. They've just been making race cars for so long. They're so cleverly thought out. I mean, speaking to Dennis Olsen recently, who's driven for FAF on several occasions. He and various other Porsche customer teams, and I was saying, what is the difference with the new 992 Cup car, the kind of evolution of the car we have on screen right now? And he says it's really, in a balanced performance formula, there's no point making the car 5 seconds quicker because you'll just get it taken away from you again. However, you can make the car easier to get to the limit. You can make it easier for maybe a less experienced driver who you might be sharing the driving with. And of course, they've then got to balance that for a series like DTM, where it's a sprint championship with all pro drivers knocking lumps out of each other. Yep. And that same car has got to do both of those jobs. That's a very difficult design brief.
Yeah, BOP is not easy, and as someone who was behind the scenes as part of the Esports Michelin Global Championship, BOP is a topic that is not easy to discuss in sim racing either, and it's just as complicated to solve. I think that's the one thing that I miss about the old days of sim racing, when I was not involved in all of these things that I was doing. I didn't mind about BOP. I just got in the car that I wanted to drive, Peter, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely go for the car that I enjoy, and it's also the feel. It's these 911 GT3Rs. They are still a 911 in character. The engine is more rearward than it would be in any other GT3 car. So you have to mold with that and gel with that. And some drivers really do. Others prefer maybe having the engine right in the front. Some prefer a turbocharged power delivery. This car is a naturally aspirated. It's an absolute masterpiece of an engine. 4 litres, flat 6. And you hear that distinctive sound. That is the sound of a Porsche racing car. Certainly a Porsche GT racing car. That flat 6 is just, you do not need to, you could be anywhere in the paddock and you hear one go out on track, you're like, oh, there's a Porsche.
Not far away, by the way, from pit stops getting underway. Give it about a lap or two and we'll see them dive their way on in. I'll put this to you, Peter. I know this is probably a controversial thing to bring up within the legions of Porsche fans, but I think it's maybe common now to say that while the 911 is great and has so much history behind it, the best Porsche in the world is the 718 Cayman. I would be quite curious what a Cayman GT3 car would look like compared to a 911 GT3 car.
Well, I actually drove the Cayman GT4 a couple of weeks ago. I had it for a day.
Ooh.
And what an incredible machine.
You're making me jealous now.
Oh, it was just spectacular. I've driven quite a few fast cars and it's just spectacularly good. The gear shift is delicious. The steering feel is incredible. It does everything that you ask of it. It had carbon brakes, so you could just stamp on the brake is hard, and the stopping power is just unbelievable. Quite tall gearing, so you were doing a fairly significant speed in second gear, but you're enjoying that 4-litre flat six motor. Yeah, really, which actually has been, developed from a 3-litre turbocharged unit, but then changed to 4-litre flat six. So yeah, the GT4 car came in is good, but I think for the GT3, that's always going to be a 911 for me.
Okay. So you're not curious what a Cayman GT3 would be like?
Well, I think the GT4 E performance is gonna fit into that window. I really do.
Yeah, no, it goes back to that first race. It goes back to what we were talking about a couple of hours ago. That Porsche mission
SPX class, it's made for it. It's made for the SPX class at the Nürburgring. It's made for it. Get a fast charger, 350 kilowatt charger. I think that would be a perfect way to showcase because you know that if Porsche take a car at the Nürburgring, taking tyres. Look, Arjuna, they're taking tyres. Aha.
Up on the jacks, and so 40% of a fuel tank is going to get you. It's usually a 42-second top off on fuel. So if you times that by 0.4, about a 17-second fill time, that will give you enough time to do 2 tires. And I think that's what we saw from Gagnon Renault and Etienne Leger. I think Marc-Andre Seguin is going to take 4 tires and rolls after 28 seconds in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's our way of knowing. We know that it's a little bit like being a police detective. If you see the car go up on the jacks, that means it's taking some form of tyres. How many? That's where the time in the box gives it away. So now all our leaders coming in with 35 minutes to go. So that's a 25-minute stint. I think they've run it dry there, Arjuna. So this is going to be fascinating to see who fills up full. Do you fill up full again and then just a tiny splash at the end? Do you take a tiny splash now and get some track position? It's a difficult conundrum.
Just watch this on pit exit for Ian Gagnon Renault. Cold tyres. And, I mean, it wasn't 1 save, it wasn't 2 saves. There's about 50 saves around in there. Not sure how he was able to hold on, but he is able to work his way through. Having said that, that's Ian Gagnon Renault around. Plenty of split calls, though, at the front. Antoine Lacharit has gone with just 14 seconds of fuel compared to 18 seconds for Guillaume Levesque, with a big change for Andrew Caron, because I think he's got a speeding penalty for this cycle of pit stops.
No, that's game over. That's game over for Caron, because the speeding penalties are really, really fierce. Let's see what happens then. So we're riding on board with Caron, and that's speeding all right. We don't need to see the speedometer. That was significantly faster than his rivals. So there's Lacharit, no problem. Levesque, he nearly hits the back of Levesque. Wow, got that completely wrong. One thing that really noticed there, Arjuna, is that the new tyre model, it definitely gives you less grip on cold tyres, and that really showed with those drivers coming out of pit lane. I mean, we saw Gagnon Renault have 2 huge moments, but Levesque, he was fighting oversteer all the way out of pit lane as well.
I do wonder what it's going to mean in terms of strategies, because tyre wear, as we can already tell, is quite considerably increased from the norm, where you said double stint was not abnormal. Quad stints were not abnormal over the last year in endurance racing, so I'm very curious how this plays. You can change tyres while taking fuel now, which is more in line with the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship rules, so plenty of exciting strategy things to look forward to as we head into the iRacing Daytona 24. 3rd week of January. We had 16,000 drivers last year, or earlier this year. I'm hoping for 2023 that we can try and knock out the 20,000 marker to celebrate what is the biggest sim race in the world.
So cool. Yeah, it is so cool. And for me, it's I know for many, in the outdoor world, Le Mans is very special, but actually the Rolex 24 at Daytona holds a really special place for me. It's completely unique. It's always going to go down to the wire. Nobody ever runs away from the race, and the sheer quality of field that turns up, the atmosphere, when the start is called, it's making the hairs stand up on my neck. Just thinking about it. It's an amazing motor race, and if you've never been, it's the one to go to. It's so good.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I can be there next year. I think there'll be a lot of excitement around GTP cars debuting there, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm expecting a lot of focused on the focused on the World Center of Racing. That is a fantastic phrase to say 5 times fast. 6 seconds the gap, by the way, now between Antoine Lacharit and Guillaume Levesque. Remember, only 4 seconds difference in terms of the time they've spent in pit lane. So at least advantage for now to Lacharit. Well, it's about a 2-second buffer to which he can play with still one more pit stop cycle to go. I think the reality is, Peter, we're not expecting anyone to try and make it by saving a pit stop like we were maybe thinking with how much fuel saving the likes of Guillaume Levesque were doing. It's all just about what they do with tires.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very big ask. I think if as often you see, I mean, one of the Porsche Works drivers, Lawrence Vantor, always says, if you're come up behind somebody in endurance racing, you've got to make a decision. Either you push and you go by them, but if you go by them, you better make sure you pull away to make it worth it, or you sit behind them and you save fuel, you save tires, and that you then gain the time on your rival in the pit lane. I think that's what Levesque's strategy was going to be. But when he saw Lacharit just hit the afterburners and disappear, he's like, "Oh, that's not going to work anymore. I've got to get on with this." But now Levesque's got a bit of clean air. We're going to have to keep a close eye on the times. Last time by, Lacharit was 0.3 of a second quicker, mind you.
Yes, but again, remember, slightly lower tank of fuel, so maybe able to take advantage just a little bit. I'm glad you brought up the Vanthor brothers, by the way, because Lawrence, of course, will be in the 963. But have you listened to the Vanthor brother podcast yet, Peter?
I'm subscribed. I've yet to listen to it, but I will. In fact, I've got quite a lot of household chores to do over the next day or so I will listen to it when I'm doing that as well. Great characters, really great characters. Dries is, Lawrence is the driver who's obviously got he's got the bigger profile. He's been a Porsche Works driver for a long time, but you look at Dries's CV, he's won a lot of big races, Spa, Nürburgring, etc. And his, he did a great job as well in the Hub Auto, the Taiwanese team with the Porsche 911 RSR. Really, really good.
Yeah, no.
Really, really good.
The Vanthor family is just unfairly talented. It's just unfair. It's as simple as that. Sully Almeida and Matt Adams swap around as Almeida finds the long way around as they dive their way down into the infield.
Ooh, yeah, so they've got to be careful not to slow each other up too much. They've got to try and move forward here of Matt Adams and Suelio Almeida. And those two orange and black machines. Yeah, very important. They'll have to figure it out later on after that. But tell you what, it's, Dries, obviously the Audi's motorsport direction is changing a lot. Their F1 program is obviously all-encompassing. Their kind of GT program appears to be kind of winding down. We haven't had any kind of official announcement, but none of the factory drivers are staying around. So seeing Dries in the BMW squad, he's going to be once again a major thorn in the side of his older brother, that's for sure.
And we always enjoy those sibling rivalries, and maybe we can get some more feisty fighting like we did back at the Nürburgring all those years.
That was too far.
Maybe a little bit too far, but we could enjoy it as neutrals.
I don't think the Manti Racing were very happy about the damage bill from it. That's for sure.
Hey, we'll get them to settle the differences on the sim where the damage bills are virtual.
Yes, a good idea.
Hey,
yeah, a good idea. I've actually raced against both of them in the sim.
Do you remember, Peter, the first time that we ever really met each other was I was commentating on you?
Do you know that? And that is in one of my favourite cars of all time, the HPD. They say it's almost because it was the car that really made the Porsche RS Spider one of the greatest Porsches of all time, because it had to beat that car. The Acura HPD LMP2 car was so good. It had such good drivers in it, IndyCar drivers, and I think that was David Brabham's best ever season, 2008. He drove so well, but Timo and Roma and the number 7 Penske car, they did the job. And I think to be great, you've got to beat greats, I think.
You have, I mean, I think we all have a fascination with the Spider, Peter, but you've delved quite deep into the history books about that one.
It's a special car. It's the really, really special car, the RS Spider. When you speak to, people like Harmut Christen, who was the boss of Porsche Motorsport at the time, Dieter Steinhauser, who was one of the big development chiefs at Weissach at the time, and when they talk about the car as highlights of their careers, that gives a lot of weight. But one of the main guys who had such an impact on it was Michael Fadnauer, who's still involved at Porsche, and he was the guy who brought the big aero development to the car, and that was they needed to have that aero development to keep up with Acura. It really was a proper battle. It was brilliant. What an era of racing, and as you said earlier, I think we're about to go right back to it.
No, I've never felt this excited about a year of endurance racing like I do right now. Not just because of the sports cars, significant year to go back to Le Mans for so many. It just feels special, 2023 in so many ways. Ian Gagnon Renault slightly mind moves Etienne Leger out the way down the hill as they work through the Decido del Lago. That was a Jedi mind trick right there, I tell you.
It was a little bit. I can imagine, though, if you've got Gagnon Renault +0 on your pit board, that's a terrifying thought, because he's all attack all the time. He's had a few little off-track excursions, and if you see him, he's so fast, and he comes up in your mirror so quick, you're going to think, maybe that was just a little bit, like you say, Jedi mind tricks there. Look at that! Whoa, has he caught it? Surely not. Oh, that was a big moment there, and yeah, well, it kind of makes her point there, doesn't it?
He's not smiling as much now, unfortunately.
No, and it shows you that the tyre grip available has changed massively. It's like moving to a completely different brand or manufacturer of tyre overnight. Just this last week, everyone's in a voyage of discovery, and tell you what, Antoine Lacherie, he's really enjoying it. He pulled out 6/10 of a second. 6/10 of a second from Guillaume Levesque last time by. He is on it.
I get the feeling that the lower fuel capacity is helping, but yeah, I mean, pixel perfect right now, not putting a foot wrong, and no matter the compound of tyre, whether it's the previous compound that these drivers may have more experience with or the one that they've had to be learning since Tuesday, in general here on iRacing, the more you slide the tyre, the more heat you put through it, the slower you're going to get, and that's why the calm demeanour on the look of these faces is so important, because the calmer you are, the less you're sawing at the wheel, the more you're working on the pedals and throwing more heat by yourself into the tyres, Peter.
Yeah, and it's these cars will, the GT3R has got a lot of aerodynamic performance as well. The rear wing, the diffuser front, etc. I mean, really, really impressive aero, and it's a setup that's got to work on a lot of different racetracks as well. But Antoine Lacherie, you can just see the movements of the wheel. Like you say, it's a lot calmer, a lot smoother, a lot easier. If we were to compare this with a replay of those Mission Rs, that electric car in Bathurst, that was a lot more busy for all the drivers. I mean, just shows you those Mission Rs, they are proper drivers' cars. You've got to get them and grab them by the scruff of the neck.
Tell you what, let's drag in one of our drivers for a quick chat. Let's check in with the Apex V2R Sim Garage and with one of the directors over there at Apex V2R as Marc Andre jumps in to join us now. Mark, sorry for disturbing you. How are you enjoying this event so far?
It's been pretty challenging. I gotta be honest, I haven't spent as much time on the sim as I should have had these last months.
And of course, you are also quite a late replacement driver. How much practice have you had in total for these 3 races today?
I'm gonna go on and say a massive 20 minutes.
20 minutes more than I think you would have expected to have. Tell us a little bit about Apex V2R and what's going on behind the scenes.
There's a lot to say, but I'll try and keep it brief. So Apex V2R is essentially a one-stop shop for performance driving, whether it's from the sim or reality. So I've been involved with racing and sim racing for well over a decade. Currently, we mainly offer services in coaching and development programs. So using a lot of experience I've had working for the RCMP and my years of HPDE instructing. So we do that. Then we do turnkey simulators. So we've been traveling across North America these last months, building simulators, mostly for clients that are racing in real life and kind of want to make sure that they get the maximum immersion from their simulators to reality. And then the last bit is we actually do real racing. So right now we own 5 race cars. We've got a Porsche Club Sport GT4. We've got a Radical SR3 and 3 Scion FRSs. Just came back last week from racing our first race in the World Racing League out in Coda. So that was quite fun, driving that track for the first time in real life.
And of course, tell us then about the relationship with Solio Almeida and how it ties into the real world as well.
So we've approached Solio, or I'd say we started a relationship about a year and a half ago. And it was cool because I think we aligned very, very well. And Solio is a bit of a guy that wants to form his own path, and we kind of try and nurture that and steer him in the right direction. And it's been quite exciting seeing them progress from the sim to the real world. I think we made a lot of big breakthroughs at the end of the season last year, where he was on the podium in SPC and won a race with us in Lucky Dog, which is like an endurance series. So really excited to see what's going to happen with Solio this year. I know we're working on some sponsorships with them. Hopefully we'll see them racing in our Cayman instead of the FRS, but wherever they'll be racing, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun to continue to grow with them.
Before we let you go, you had a freebie appear while we were chatting to you. You now have to defend from Ian Gagnon Renault. Talk to us a little bit about the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada.
Yeah, I mean, we started to work with Porsche Canada about 3 years ago. And I mean, it was a dream come true being able to organize such a big national esports series, and at the same time doing this with Porsche, which is a manufacturer that we've been working with for a while before, and a lot of clients that are using their products. So a lot of synergy there. And yeah, I mean, the first 2 years have been great, and I think for the next year, there's not much I can tell you yet, but there is something massive and exciting that is going to completely change this series. So hopefully that will go through, and can't wait for the drivers to find out what that is.
Well, we'll let you go and battle. I'm quite impressed that with limited practice, your lunch/dinner has not come up outside of you yet, but I guess there's still time for that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to hang on, and yeah, I think I'm doing okay.
Doing okay indeed for just 20 minutes practice. That's the director over at Apex V2R, Marc Andre, who joined us there. And Peter, you could see again how difficult it is to talk eloquently and accurately while trying to drive fast.
Well, I remember speaking to Graham Goodwin from DailySportsCar.com, and he said that he's one of his commentary colleagues, Peter Dumbrecht. Oh, Matt Adams misses his pit box. Oh, that's so frustrating. There's a couple of seconds gone begging there, but saying that, yeah, Peter Dumbrecht, of course, a very experienced racing driver, he said, can you explain what it's like going down the Mulsanne straight? He goes, yeah, sure. And he just starts shaking furiously up and down on his chair like, oh, yes, it's a bit like this. And you jump up and down. And it's actually, when you think about it, it's true, you know, so there is so much to think about, so much to do. It's an assault on the senses, but Matt Adams going for, now that's interesting, just popping on some extra tyres while the fuel's going in. And that's just, like you say, that's a game changer for GT3 racing here on the iRacing platform. It used to be where, kind of akin to the WEC rules, you put fuel in, then if you want to put tyres on, that's an added time in the pit box. Now, like you say, it's more IMSA WeatherTech rules where you slam on tyres while the fuel is going in. And I much prefer the latter, I must say.
Oh, you
just
do?
Preference. It's not that one's better than the other.
Right.
I just really like it.
No,
Full course yellows, love them. It's great. I just throw as many curveballs in,
Gotcha.
Shuffle the pack, brilliant. I'm all entertainment.
No, I think genuinely the pit stop thing is something that there's no right answer to, right? It's just different type of racing, and you strategize differently about it. Antoine Lacherie also up on the jacks. and dropping quickly. So he's just taken 2 tires, and he's basically split this race in half because it's another 13-second pit stop, and he will roll off onto the track, still 3rd place, remarkably, net in terms of the track position. However, the question now is if he's had another 13-second pit stop, does Guillaume Levesque go for another 5 or 10 minutes and then come down to pit lane for about 7 seconds of fuel?
Oh, it's going to be tight anyway. Oh, Adams is off. Adams is off on his out lap, just at the final corner at Yunkao. And, oh dear. Oh, no, it's a little bit further into actually the infield, excuse me.
No, you're right.
Oh, no, it was. No, excuse me, no, it was. Yes, loses it at Yunkao.
Oh. You got to trust your instincts. You got to trust your instincts there, Peter.
Yeah, I was like, it looked like Yunkao. Well, that's unusual there from Matt Adams, but I think that also proves that these... Oh, it's going Gagnon Renault.
So that's what happened to him. Yeah, so we were riding on board with Marc-Andre Seguin as well. Ian Gagnon Renault continues to run himself wide off the track as Marc-Andre actually got past the number 23 machine. I think it's fair to say that Gagnon Renault is not enjoying the GT3 as much, and going to your point on some people like pit stops where you change tires while you fuel and some people don't. There are some drivers that prefer GT3s over GT4s. Rather, the other way around, prefer GT4s over GT3s. Our good friend Will Chadwick, Peter, is the very same way.
Oh, he's a GT4 demon, isn't he?
Oh,
yes, absolutely. And usually of the 718 Cayman variety as well. He's his great. He'll tell you this if you ask him. His greatest sim racing achievement is actually winning the 12 hours of. No. It's not the iRacing Roar Daytona.
No, it changed.
Very impressive as that was. It was the solo 12 hours of Snetterton charity race for the NHS in lockdown, and he drove 12 hours. Obviously, that was the whole point. Everybody drove 12 hours solid at Snetterton in a GT4, and he won over real world Porsche racer Matt Henning. So ask him, and I bet you that's what he'll tell you.
Hey, he told me earlier this year that it was the iRacing Roar, which is why I thought, because it was his first major iRacing win. Battle for 7th is going to see Gagnon Renault on the inside of a 3-wide situation. Bad boy Adams wants a piece of it as well, and I think Marc-Andre Seguin said, you know what, I'll let you guys go on through. I just want to survive in this motion rig.
I think that's very clever, actually, from Marc-Andre. He's just thinking, Joe, I'll just follow you guys, just see what you do. And they're maybe a little bit quicker over a lap, but they're making more mistakes. You know, Adams, we've seen him make one. We've seen Gagnon Renault make a few. We haven't seen Marc-Andre make any. So, you know, if you can just keep in touch with them, you never know.
Into pit lane comes Solier Almeida. Not expecting him to cycle out anywhere close to really anyone that we were tracking. And
he's missed it as well.
He's the second driver to have slid straight through his box.
Oh dear, that's just giving away little slithers of time there. So frustrating. Gagnon Renault, he's had to give bay, just ran a little bit wide there, and that allowed Matt Adams through. And Adams is just right up all over the curb, saying, "If you think you're going up the inside there, you've got another thing coming, pal." And he just made sure that door was closed and locked and bolted there to make sure that Gagnon Renault didn't have another go. He thought about it, but yeah, Adams is just he doesn't look up nor down though, does he? He's so calm behind the wheel. He's there with the yellow beanie hat.
And like you pointed out earlier, he's so deadpan that you can't tell sometimes that his camera is frozen for seconds at a time.
I love it. But look at the draft there as well. A surprising amount of draft, interestingly, there with Matt Adams. He had a pretty decent gap. He had about a 3-car length gap coming out of Yunkao. And by the time they got to the first corner, Gagnon Renault was right on the rear bumper. So the draft is pretty strong. I would say slightly stronger than usual.
Now, I believe it's a fixed setup that all the drivers are all sharing. Yeah. So they're all likely on a wing setting that maybe is not the most optimal for Interlagos, because this is definitely a track where you would balance out the trim, how much downforce you have in the infield versus how fast you go in a straight line. Ian Gagnon Renault slips behind the number 8. He now runs in 9th.
It's interesting. I would go for a very much a low downforce setup
Exactly,
at
yes.
Interlagos, because you can have a high downforce setup, but you're not using any downforce in these slow corners. The downforce isn't working at that speed. So yeah, whack on a low downforce setup, and then you get a big fast run at the, on the straight. However, if everybody's playing the same thing, and like you say, if it's a draggy car, you're absolutely right, Arjuna. That could be where it's playing in there. So, Guillaume Levesque leads by 15 seconds, but he owes us a pit stop. Antoine Lacherit is... Now, excuse me. Yes, no, Guillaume Levesque is due a pit stop, isn't
Yes, he is. No,
yes.
so
yes.
Again,
Yeah.
17.5 seconds was his first cycle of pit stop, about at the 24-25 minute marker. So 4 seconds longer than what we saw from Antoine Lacherit. Now, Antoine made his second pit stop with an identical pit length. So you were talking about being a policeman. If I'm doing my detective skills here, 26 seconds or so total pit stop time we're expecting. I think Guillaume Levesque spends at most 9 seconds stationary in the box.
Yeah, so I think he needs a few more seconds in hand, really, to be absolutely in the fight here. I do think Antoine Lacherit is still in the driving seat here. He's just got to hit his marks, maintain his pace. What was that lap time last time by there for
32.896.
the number 3 car? Yeah, so that's a couple of tenths quicker than Levesque. That's going in the wrong direction for Levesque. Levesque needs to pull some time in. With the way the gap is at the moment, this is right in play for Lacherit. This has been a stellar drive, flawless drive from the number 3 car.
You'll note that we haven't really talked about crowning a winner or a champion of this Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022 Invitational. That's because we're not really doing that. We're here to celebrate what's been a fun, spectacular year for these drivers, to have some fun with 3 wonderful Porsches, 3 fantastic tracks around the world, and really build some momentum, get some bragging rights heading into a 2023 season, which is shaping up, hopefully, as Marc-Andre alluded to being very, very exciting indeed. And now, within 10 minutes to go, we've got a handful of cars down on pit lane. Etienne Leger and Ian Gagnon Renault have made their way back down to the safety of the lane.
Yeah, they're getting that last bit of service before the end of the race, topping up with fuel. Now, this is curious here for Antoine Lacherit. He's just getting held up a little bit there by Marc-Andre Seguin. And here comes Levesque then. Let's see, how long is this going to be in the pit box?
Ooh.
Up on the jacks he goes.
And
so
that-
it might be 1 tyre, maybe.
Yeah, it must be, because he spent at most 5
Oh.
seconds up on the jacks. We'll roll after 8.8, but even with the super short stop, Antoine Lacherit is off and into the distance. The margin is going to be up and over 5 seconds by the time Levesque is up to speed. Strategy calls were different, but the end result was the same. Lacherit was about 4 seconds in front heading into the cycle of pit stops. He's 4 seconds in front after the pit stops have ended.
Yeah, that is interesting there. And one thing we'll have to get used to as well here in the commentary box on this new iRacing setup with the GT3 cars is, of course, he dropped down from the jacks but still had some more fuel to go in. Normally, as soon as the jacks drop, it's go, because the fuel was long done before the tyres. But now, of course, you're trying to put as many tyres on as you can when the fuel's going in, but he put his tyre on and still a bit of fuel to go in, but not enough fuel to go in to put another tyre on without losing time. If that makes sense.
It does.
But, yeah.
One thing you don't have to worry about in the virtual world, Peter, is which side of the ocean you're on, and therefore whether you're allowed to spin the tyres while you're up on the jacks or not.
Yeah, very true. I mean, the fact that you're not allowed to spin tyres is just fun police stuff. It really is. I mean, there's nothing.
Wait.
That's the one thing, again, why IMSA is just so exciting when you get these massive smoking burnouts. Well, the thing is, I don't think that the
You're not allowed
DPR
burnouts.
You're not allowed them anymore. What?
Wait, isn't there a series where you're literally not allowed to do burnouts? Like, let alone not spin the tyres. You ca yeah.
WEC.
I thought WEC you're allowed to spin the tyres while up on the jacks, but you can't burn
no,
out. And I thought it was
no,
the opposite in
no.
IMSA.
No, IMSA,
Okay.
it's fill your boots. This massive tyre smoke.
Good.
Yeah, they almost give. It's like they should stand there like Strictly Come Dancing style with like 10, 10, 10. When you have a perfect burnout.
Instead of the Michelin RFID scanners, you just got signs with 10 on them.
Yeah, just saying how good your burnout was. But of course, the old DPI cars, you see some great proper. You'd see, like, I remember that the Mazda or the Acura would just sit there on the limiter and then just bam, off they would go. And yeah, it's going to be different now because, of course, the LMDH cars are going to leave on their hybrid power and then fire the engine as they're going down pit lane, which is cool. No burnouts, unfortunately, but
I know.
which is a shame. But the GT cars still will.
But, you know, you still get this new thrill because the burnouts were just one sensation, right, that we enjoyed in motorsport. Now we get the thrill of seeing a car depart silently and fire up as it's rolling down pit lane, which I think during the night is going to just be insane.
That's cool. And that's kind of what a road hybrid car does. It starts up in... Yes?
Did you just see that line that Antoine Lacherit took?
Alternative.
Yes, he took the Mark Webber attempted line all those years ago.
Yeah. The thing is, that's a performance road hybrid car, like the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Oh goodness me! Yeah, wheel on the grass. Well spotted, Arjuna.
Yeah, I got scared.
Wow, that could have been an embarrassing way to finish the race, but not such a problem for Antoine Lacherit. 6 seconds the gap, 6 minutes to go. But yeah, I tried a Cayenne Turbo Hybrid recently, and yeah, it always starts up on electric, so you needn't be the neighbour that everyone hates.
Despises, yes.
Yeah, so you just creep out silently, and then you switch it into combined mode, and the twin turbo V8 fires up, and you've got both powertrains at your disposal.
Lovely. That Cayenne Turbo, I do love a Cayenne. I love all Porsches.
I've been in the past a very, and I still am as a general category, very much a critic of the SUV category. I'm very much a fan of a saloon or an estate car if you need space. But I've driven 2 Cayennes now, the base one, which is excellent, and the turbo hybrid, which is, honestly, it is like a NASCAR. It is so fast. I just cannot describe how fast. Well, the thing is, NASCAR probably doesn't have anything like the traction this thing does. It's four-wheel drive, of course.
Yes.
And 700 horsepower on tap. You put your foot down, and it feels like you're taking off to the moon. It's acceleration like nothing I've experienced. I've never driven a car with that level of power before. And when it's a car that weighs 2.6 tons, it's just comical just how fast it is.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm lucky enough to drive a Macan, and it shocks me every day.
Lovely car.
Yeah, every
lovely
day
car.
I turn it in, and I'm just like, how is this car so heavy, but it still manages to grip the road? I have done a disgusting amount of driving this year, just because I look for excuses to go out and drive my car, Peter.
Why not?
I know.
That's what you can do with it.
Exactly. Yeah. It is so much fun. The reason I kind of bring up the SUVs and the Panamera in that kind of space as well as the non-traditional Porsches is I actually, for the longest time, really did not like the Panamera. I didn't think it looked that great from behind. But much like the Macan and the Cayenne look great now, I think the Panamera looks spectacular now. Not as good as the Taycan.
Taycan is probably the best looking Porsche on sale right now. I think it's you see one on the street and you're like, that car has got presence. And who's that off?
That's Gagnon
Who's that
Renault.
off? That's Gagnon. He's had a tough day. Is he in? And very politely waiting for his opportunity to... I wonder if he's listening, can hear us. I don't know. 3 minutes to go. Gets back going again, and Antoine Lacherit still got his 6-second advantage.
So I think that's probably the 4th time that Ian Gagnon Renault has decided to run just the slightest bit wide at this corner. This is the most spectacular of them. Didn't get lost in the same way that Kimi Räikkönen did all those years, but yes, the gentleman as he waited to get back on the road.
That definitely justifies a boah.
Yes, it does.
That was a proper boah there. This has been a clinic from Antoine Lacherit. We've seen Guillaume Levesque win in the Mission R and then win again in the 992 Cup, and Lacherit got close but just couldn't quite find that extra edge. Well, it just shows you what a change of circuit, change of car, and the order is just flipped on its head. Lacherit now the real benchmark in this third race. But it's 2 victories to 1 as it stands for Guillaume Levesque.
Still 3 victories for ASR Able, which I think they'll take a lot of pride in, and 3 1 and 2s as well, including the 1, 2, 3 in race number 2.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing as well, because yes, we've got 9 drivers in the field, but looking at the I ratings, it makes for scary reading. Ian, is he going to park up? I think no.
I think
he's just getting out of the way. I think he was actually just pulling over to let the faster cars through.
Ah, okay.
I think so. So now, what have we got? 1 minute 32. We're going to get 2 more. I hope he's put enough fuel in.
Good point. Now, have any of the drivers decided to fly too close to the sun? Are their wings going to be burned? It would not be the first time that we've seen that here on RaceSpotTV. Antoine Lacherit does not... he's got the ability to lay back and fall into the bubble that he's got behind him to Guillaume Levesque, but because of the way that the white flag system works on iRacing, it tends to work on an average lap time rather than on the last lap time that you've done and how long it should take you to get around. So basically what I'm trying to say is, no matter what games that Antoine tries to play, expect for 2 more laps here, and I think you're right, Peter. A bit of nerves as to whether they got there in the end. Now, there's a lot of programs that will help you and try and give you the numbers that you need, but at least in my third-party experience, it does not tend to work out well.
It always has a way of surprising you in terms of fuel mileage. Yeah, this is going to go just and no more 1 lap into overtime, and that might be, these drivers might not have expected that extra lap. So we'll just see Lacherit will just be coming over the start-finish line at the moment with sort of 15 seconds on the clock. That's going to push an extra lap, perhaps more than they expected. So that's the only question mark here. Does Lacherit have enough fuel on board? Does Levesque have enough fuel on board? We'll find out in just a minute and a half's time.
I think they should be good. I think basically if I tot up the numbers through the field, I don't think anyone trying any crazy risk compared to their competitors. We'll have to wait and see. Remember, Sulia Almeida had an end-of-line penalty at the start of this race, so even though he technically was qualified in 3rd, started back in 9th, will finish in 3rd as well. I'll repeat what I've said a couple of times today. I guess it was better late than never.
Absolutely, yeah. Great to have Suelio come in to join us for this 3rd race. A podium there in the 911 GT3R. And I hope he enjoyed watching some of the Mission R race. That's been one of my highlights of this event, Arjuna. I think the whole point of that car in the outdoor world, and I guess the whole reason why it's in the virtual world too, is to prove that an electric race car can be seriously exciting, and it really is. I cannot wait for its kind of offspring, the GT4E performance, to hit the racetrack for real. And from the people I've spoke to within Porsche, there could see quite a few of them out on track.
Well, it's been an hour's domination from Antoine Lacherit. Had to be the bridesmaid in the opening 2 rounds, but in the feature, in the endurance, Antoine Lacherit grabs the victory in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022 Invitational. He caps it off with a bit of drama and damage on that Porsche 911 GT3R. His teammate comes across the line in 2nd to continue the streak of 1 and 2s for ASR Able. A very fun event, 3 very fun combos, and Peter, a great way to sign off the year for Porsche Esports in Canada.
A super way to sign off the year. Yeah, 3 really cool combinations there as well. Some great drivers, superb depth of field. I mean, the average iRating will be well over 6,000. So it just gives you an idea. Some of the best sim racers in Canada at the wheel of Porsches, and all having some fun as well. One thing we've seen, normally we don't see too many smiles on our onboard cameras, but we certainly saw some smiles today.
Yeah, and
now,
I like
Ian
that.
Ian Renault just having one more crash just before the end.
He just adds to the incident points for those familiar with the iRacing system. Ian Gagnon Renault incurred 82 incident points, Peter, in 60 minutes.
That's got to be some kind of record.
It's not bad, is it? 82
Wow,
in an
that's-
hour.
No, what is it that Ron Burgundy said? He said, I'm not even mad. That's impressive.
I'm not even mad indeed. Here's a look at the results after 39 laps. Antoine Lacharit, a clinic, and 8 seconds clear of his teammate Guillaume Levesque. ASR Abel, 1 and 2 across the 3 races, but better late than never for Julio Almeida in the Apex V2R machine. From the back of the field, back up to 3rd, in front of Giovanni Romano and Andrew Caron, who had a speeding penalty, able to recover up into 5th. Matt Adams, bad boy Matt Adams in 6th. Definitely showed us his feisty side here today in front of Etienne Leger with Marc-André Seguin and Ian Gagnon Renault, the 2 cars, and drivers scored and classified as 1 lap down. I tell you what here, Peter, we got a bit of time to go through and talk with some of the drivers, so I don't think we're in any sort of a rush to run away here. So why don't we begin by talking to the most recent winner in this Invitational? You're standing by with Antoine Lacharit.
Antoine, that was an absolute clinic out there. How do you feel after that one?
That's great. You know, I tried to gamble with the strategy, and it paid off at the end. Was the right one, so very happy.
I mean, the GT3 world on iRacing has changed so much, it seems, since the big update on Tuesday. I mean, what can you tell us about how the fuel is behaving and how you're having to adapt to that with your pit stops and things like that?
Well, the biggest change is really the tire degradation. And for sure, the fact that you can change the tire at the same time with the fuel, so it changed a lot the strategy. So for the tire, you have to fit to change the tire, but at the same time with the fuel without losing time doing one or the other alone. So you really have to think your strategy to do both at the same time to very save time, and it's what I did, and it really paid off. So, yeah,
it worked very, very well indeed. I mean, tonight we've had 3 completely different combinations. I know this was where you got the best result, but which combination have you enjoyed the most of the 3 races tonight?
I will say Bathurst. It was very challenging, and I really liked it, even though it didn't finish the way I wanted to finish it, but yeah, it was pretty interesting, and yeah, it was fun.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that with the Mission R. That's very cool. Well done on a super day of racing, Antoine, and congratulations on a great win there in the 3rd race.
Thank you.
Antoine Lacharit grabs the win in the final of the races, but it was his teammate that dominated in the first 2 rounds. We chat once again with Guillaume Levesque. Guillaume, another strong performance. However, this time it was your teammate that was just that little bit too quick.
Yeah, it was very quick at the beginning, and I fought with Andrew a bit, and we lost him. But after that, strategies play a big role in that races. And yeah, I think he put less fuel in the first pit and took 2 tires in both pits. I went for 2 tires and 1 tires and didn't work well after the 1 tires. The car was feeling a bit weird after the second pit.
In terms of 3 very different cars, 3 very different tracks, I have to ask, for the first time in a long time, Peter and myself got to look at sim racers smiling. How much fun did you have with this event?
We had a lot of fun, and because we were all in VC together, and we were throwing some kind of things that's funny in the voice chat, so it was really fun racing that event.
Well, 2 wins out of 3 and a great performance for ASR Abel. I think there's plenty to smile about as you guys look forward to 2023. Congratulations, Guillaume. Happy holidays, and we wish you the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Guillaume Levesque joins us in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. We'll chat with the final driver on the podium and then chat with a few more, but quickly we'll speak again with Julio Almeida. Julio, you had to drop back to the back at the start of the race and fight your way back up forward. How much fun did you have there in that 60 minutes?
Oh, it was always a learning experience. I think since this car was updated, it's a little bit weird because there's no front, and then as you heat up the tires, it gets super oversteer on entering, then understeer on exit. So I was like 1 hour pretty much like trying to understand the car, to learn the car, At some point, I was starting to do some good laps, but until I got to really understand the car, I was already far behind. Also, I accidentally replaced tires on the second pit stop because I forgot to uncheck them. But it was super fun, super fun. I love this track, of course. I have, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 laps at this track already. And it was amazing. It was just amazing.
I mean, I do want to ask you, you're someone who can speak to the way that this car has changed quite significantly, but I want to ask you more specifically about how the strategy is going to change moving forward in endurance races now that tires and fuel can be done at the same time.
Yeah, and also it's funny though because the tires are lasting a lot. I did not really notice any change in performance from 45-minute tires to new tires. So that will also, I mean, teams are probably already trying several combinations for the stints before the Daytona 24. I think Daytona 24 is, 1 month?
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, it's gonna mix up things for sure. I particularly enjoy the way the car is behaving when the tires are kind of used, more than when they're new, to be honest. But yeah, let's see. Especially like everything is gonna change a little bit. The tires, the tire model always changes. Not only the feel with the tires, but also the behavior of the car, the behavior of the aerodynamics. It's always every 3 months is different. So we're consistently testing.
Constant evolution, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us, Sulio, for this final 60 minutes, and looking forward to seeing you back in action in 2023.
Thank you, man.
Continue moving our way through, and Peter, let's try him again. Let's see if we've got Giovanni Romano on the line. You're standing by.
Giovanni, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. Do you have a copy? Oh, he's shy. Oh, here he is. Giovanni.
I was about to hang it up, and all of a sudden I heard your voice on the headphones.
How was that race?
That was a lot of fun. So that was my first time actually driving the Porsche GT3. So I was basically learning the car as the race was going, and I'm really happy how it went. I didn't think my best. If you told me beforehand that the GT3 race was the one I would do the best in, I would have told you you're crazy. So it was a good time.
Well, yeah, I mean, to come home in 4th position overall in a field as strong as this one. I know we've only got 8 drivers, but really strong field. I mean, was the car, any new car, is difficult to get the very maximum, but was the car approachable? It must have been with the pace you were showing.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna try and kill me because I had no experience. I don't even drive GT3s much, so it was like a new thing. But the one sort of advantage I had is that I had a IVRA race, Club Sport, a few weeks ago, and it was at Interlagos. So I turned hours of practice for that. So at the very least, I had the track down. It was just a matter of figuring the car out. And in that race, I drove the McLaren GT4, and I found as I got used to the Porsche that it drove kind of similarly, like sort of loose on entry and then understeer on exit. So it was just a matter of adjusting my braking points a little, and I started to get into a groove, and yeah, it felt pretty good.
Well, it's certainly a superb result. Great stuff in that 3rd race there, Giovanni, and thanks for coming to join us.
Yeah, thanks for putting this on. It was a good time, and shout out to my team, HJ Motorsport.
Huge Ass Motorsports, of course. We've got David Haynes in our RaceSpotTV commentary booth that will love to hear the Huge Ass shout out. One final interview I think we've got time for, and I'm going to leave Backstreet Boy Mackay with bad boy Matt Adams.
Oh, well, Arjuna, you've thrown me under the bus there. Matt Adams, we've renamed you the bad boy of Porsche Canada Sim Racing. We want to know if you're happy with that nickname or not.
I want to know why I got that nickname before I make my decision.
I think you might have noticed us commentators are known to exaggerate. And I think you had a light brush with somebody, and all of a sudden that made you the pantomime villain.
Well, I guess I'll embrace it. It is what it is, and I definitely am aggressive on track, but I try to be fair.
No, you were. I mean, tell us about the event as a whole. We've had 3 different cars, 3 different tracks. How did you find adapting from discipline to discipline tonight?
It was difficult to say the least. It's a big challenge to go from an all-wheel drive car at Bathurst to no traction control, no TC in the 992, and then going to a GT3 car. It's just very hard to switch the rhythm that you're in, but it's a ton of fun. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, it was certainly impressive for us to watch. And a final question, Matt. How on earth do you go sim racing with a woolly hat on? You must be roasting.
It hides all my hair. It's
I have the opposite problem. I don't have much hair, so I hide it with the hat.
Well, I'm preparing for when I go bald like my dad, I guess.
I followed him too. Matt, it's been fantastic watching you out there. Embrace the bad boy image. You've earned it. It's brilliant.
Thank you guys, and have a good night.
Love it. Matt Adams joins us.
I think he likes it. I think he likes it.
I think he's going to embrace it. I think we mean it we don't mean it in any bad way. I think that was the thing that he was a little bit surprised by for a second there, Peter. What fun we've had. I know you are, like I said, RaceSpot's resident Porsche fan, but we both love a good Porsche race car. We've enjoyed chatting about Porsches, and I can't wait now to see what 2023 holds in store for the drivers in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada roster. As I think it's a very exciting championship and plenty of exciting plans for next year.
There is, and you know, we've seen such a development with Porsche and the iRacing platform specifically. Lots of different cars from every avenue that Porsche races in, and I'm sure that will continue into 2023. What avenues that might take, I know what a lot of us would like to see, we'll see, but it's been super cool to see the best sim racers in Canada race these such cool race cars on 3 great tracks. It's been a whole lot of fun. A pleasure to be part of it.
And we raced the future generation of Porsche race cars, we raced the current generation of Porsche race cars, and we raced the past generation, well, outgoing generation of Porsche race cars. A great celebration of 2022 and what has been. For now, though, it is time to bid you farewell. Here live on RaceSpotTV for the special presentation of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada 2022 Invitational. 3 wacky combos. ASR Able, the standout drivers, Guillaume Levesque with 2 victories, his teammate Antoine Lacharit with 1, but a good time had by all. Sim racers smiling, that's what we like to see. For now though, for the team at RaceSpotTV, for Peter Mackay alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company. We'll see you next time. For now, so long and enjoy the holidays.